Recording in progress.
Today was the first one. Okay, yeah, read that. Is that when we go back to what we just passed? Building is on Oak Street, that's the historic, but you pulled it from. I don't know.
So if there is a sidewalk.
For the curb? No, it's one. That's what I thought too, cause and now of course she's texting me every day, and I'm like. You need some time.
The personnel.
Did you?
Right away.
Yes, did you?
On Monday.
On Monday? Oh, one Monday ago.
Right, it wouldn't have been. Oh, Leon, you know, Josh was.
Yeah,
Thank you.
let's say, are the old.
Archives.
So you go to the Friday packet?
Yeah.
Right at the bottom.
Right, and you can all the most recent.
No, here we go. So this is one of the.
Huh. Friday packet.
And sometimes it takes some more time.
Professional first.
But you can't find anything. Yeah, I know. So we did that last
That's a
February.
function.
Let's go back.
Yeah.
and
Right.
Okay. And say sidewalk, and it should come up. Yeah.
Looks like Counselor Kale is that will happen.
Okay.
Sorry. It's not really much meeting what was asked.
So what's it was like, it started, last term, yeah.
It did. Started last time when we got the.
So good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Zoning and Planning Committee to talk specifically about the budget assigned to this committee. I'm Lyle Baker, the chair. We're joined tonight in the room by the vice chair, Councilor Wright, by the president, Councilor Oliver, by Councilor Dalovich from Ward 4, Councilor Albright from Ward 2, Councilor Getz from Ward 5. Councilor Kalis, I believe, is with us on Zoom. Councilor Gordon from Ward 6, also Councilor Kelly joins us from the from Zoom, and then we also join with various members of the administration who will come to the table and enlighten us as we go forward. Miles Starkey, the clerk, and thank you, Miles, for helping organize all of this material for us. So before we begin, we have three budgets. As you'll see, we're going to take inspectional services, planning, and then CPA administration. And I'd ask at the time the budgets are presented, the departmental representatives to come to the table. We're also joined by Morse, who's Morse, your chief operating officer, is that the correct title?
That is my official title, but Josh is perfectly fine too.
Well, I understand, but I don't want to, never mind. Anyway, get it right. So I appreciate you being here. And so I want to just say a word about the budget process. As I mentioned in an email for a date question we discussed, this is now I think my 43rd budget. No, that's durability, if nothing else. However, I think the format has been improved, but let me just indicate that for those who are new to this committee and new to the council, this may be one of the first times you've had a chance to look at a budget and think about, well, what do we do with this? And our role as counselors is to review the budget and to vote. And what we do generally in the committee is go to straw vote of whatever recommendation the committee wants to make. Legally, our authority is limited. In other words, we can vote to approve the budget and we can vote to reduce accounts. And but we cannot add money to the budget. We can also, however, resolve as members of a committee, which would go to the full committee as a whole in the budget discussion later for consideration by our colleagues, that the mayor make adjustments in the budget if we think those adjustments are warranted. and our ability to make cuts is limited. If you, just as an illustration, if you go to inspectional services, and Commissioner, I don't want you to get nervous about this. In inspectional services summary, there are accounts, personnel services, expenses, fringe benefits. Our ability as a council, as I understand it from the controller, is if we wanted to move a reduction in any amount, we would only be able to do it in those gross categories. We don't have the ability to make adjustments in any subsidiary account. So I just wanted to give everyone essentially a bit of a roadmap of what the budget process looks like. Our historical practice, and I would follow it tonight, is to invite the department head who is submitting the budget, but we have obviously the representative of the executive department here as well, to come to the table and elaborate a little bit on what has been said. I've asked that the clerk attach, and I think we got a communication from Mr. Ciccarello, or the Inspectional Services Commissioner, of responses to questions that have been posed earlier, and also attached to the agenda were responses from the planning department to the kind of issues that we'd raised in the conversations we'd had earlier. So I'm operating on the assumption that everyone has had a chance to review that information, but if you haven't, it's a chance to do it in high speed. So anyway, with that introduction, anyone on the committee have anything to add to what I've said in terms of process? If not, then I would invite commissioners, do you want to come to the table, or Whitmore, do you want to come with any? I think we can get another chair for the evening. Don't have to.
This board case, look back to the screen.
Yeah, you'll be on.
Yep.
Miles, the memo from the commissioner.
That was today.
Today.
To us. It was a memo about some planning.
Yeah, but not one, Miles, they just came today.
It was
so.
they answered questions. It's not. Oh, okay, I thought it was just repeated. At the very end.
So
No,
I'll show
Let's make sure we get everybody, we have, at least have a copy to look at.
Because one thing I do.
Miles, can you make sure you send a copy to the committee this one?
Pardon?
Zap agenda.
Yeah. So it's not in this packet. That's what.
I'll send it to
You
you
now.
now.
I figured that's why I was like.
Okay.
Now, Commissioner, we have to move to suspend the rules to allow your information to be presented late, so I will do that. Just as a matter of form, since I'm the chair of the rules committee, but appreciate you putting it together, because it's important that we have that. And let everybody, but I'll move that motion. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Commissioner, you're now legitimate, at least you're documented. We thank you for coming. So, the question that we want to find out from you is something that you would like to have us know about your department that is not already reflected in the information you've given us. But it might be helpful to some of our newer colleagues just to say a word about the people who are in the department, because you have this table of organization on the page. And I think it's really important to understand sort of the different roles, and you just want to sort of walk us through how that works. That's the back page of the first posters here where we're talking about.
So obviously, I'm top of the hill with Commissioner. Below is the Deputy Commissioner of Plans Examiner, Andy Mavrillis, who's in charge of reviewing all the big projects for the city, for building code and building zoning, for the city. Deb is my administrator. We also have a senior gas, senior building and electrical inspector who are in charge of currently two in electric. We do have a part-time electrical inspector currently, but we're looking to fill that position at the beginning of this year, fiscal year. We also have two two inspectors for gas and plumbing, which would be Don Ivester and James Lally. We also do have a part-time inspector that fills in when these inspectors go out on vacation or out sick, just to keep up with the demand in the city. And also we have four building inspectors, district inspectors, Nelson, Gilbert, and Johnson. And we also have a COI inspector, which is certificate inspection inspector, who does the inspections throughout the city for restaurants, places of assembly, things to that effect. Families, 3 families or more, R2s, they're called in the building code. Multi-families, things like that. We also have a weights and measure individual who's Brett Filito. He came into the inspectional services department about 4 years ago. And we also have our office coordinator, information coordinator, Kristen Patton, and development service assistant, Julie Oresco, who are the girls at the staff at the front desk, basically greeting most of the clients that come to the counter. Also have our zoning enforcement agent, Howard Simons. He does the bulk of the zoning enforcement in the city. And we also have our assistant zoning enforcement agent, Chuck Edrahai, who does mainly leaf blower enforcement.
Thank you. Now, the planning department has 2 people designated for historical review that work in your office, so I mean, physically located. And so if people come to the counter and they need assistance, they assist them, right?
Mhm.
So, and your office basically does the kind of traffic management of somebody.
Yeah, we work in conjunction with each other.
Okay. So, I just want to give a brief overview and the total amount of the departmental budget that we would be entertaining a straw vote about is $2,457,396 plus a supplemental CIP on the CIP. So with that background, my colleagues, questions for the commission? Vice Chair.
I just 2 clarifications. You say you have a part-time electrical inspector and fiscal year you want to go full-time, change that position to a full-time or add a full-time?
That will be changed to a full-time position.
Okay. And then in the data, I think in the updated data, at one place, you added, it seems this past year you added an electrical, you might have said that, but in the line item, I left it all at home. It said it added a mechanical inspector. So this past year, did you add electrical?
We added a part-time plumbing mechanical, both electrical and plumbing and gas are called mechanical inspectors.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we added we're gonna add 1 full-time mechanical inspector being electrical.
Okay. And just real quick, R2 says 3+ families. So if there's 3 condos, do they have to be in one building or could it be 2?
No,
condos?
it would have to be a 3-family or multi-family or apartment buildings,
Okay.
those type of buildings.
But, you know, we do a lot of these 3 condos and 2 in one building, 1 in the other. Would that be considered an R2 or no?
No, I don't, I would say no, but they're separated.
Okay, and then one of the things that you said in, that was just sent to us,
Mhm.
that your department could be more efficient if you have an additional car.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because I see a lot of cars out in the lot over here.
Right.
And I don't know, and this is maybe listed more, it's about, is there a better way to, you know, distribute the cars or?
Well, each one of our cars are used every day by each inspector. Okay, so our district inspectors, mechanical inspectors are in those vehicles every single day. There's not one left unless somebody is out for some reason, sick or on vacation. And if that's the case, we'll have either leaf blower enforcement agent take that car. And if the zoning enforcement officer needs his regular car, he would take that. But typically, Howard Simons and Chuck Edrahai share a car during the summer, the warm months between April and December. Because Chuck comes in, he's part-time, and so he sort of has the priority, and both him and Howard both arrange their time to, work with each other. Sometimes Howard would go with Chuck to go look at a few zoning enforcements. But if we did get another car, it would be beneficial, so Howard can schedule his own schedule and not work, the schedule with Chuck, and they'd be a little more efficient that way, I think.
Would that be the mayor's department to look at?
So, just very briefly, in 2012, just for everybody's information, especially our newer counselors, in 2012, then Chief Operating Officer Bob Rooney did an inventory of all city vehicles that were assigned to staff. what came out of that actually was the pool car system. So the cars you see around the circle, the vast majority of those are our pool car system. That actually in 2012 actually drastically reduced the number of city vehicles in our fleet, passenger vehicles. So those are all shared among lots of different departments. Some, like our inspectors, actually have dedicated vehicles because they need to, because of their job. So what would happen in this case is that should Anthony determine, or any department determine they need another vehicle, they would work through Travis in DPW. He's our director of fleet. He has a whole system and a line item for purchasing of vehicles, and we evaluate those each year on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, for something like inspections, if you hire an inspector but they can't get from point A to point B, then it's kind of wasteful. So that would be a high priority.
And we would need another copy of the incoming electrical inspector.
But you're still short, like a
We
half.
would still be short of, yeah, a
Do you
vehicle.
use pool cars or find out?
We try to occasionally, but sometimes they're taken. So, they're not always available.
Do we have the ability, or is it appropriate for an inspector to use their own vehicle and get reimbursed?
So the ability, yes, appropriate, no. For inspector, we would certainly prefer that they have a city vehicle with a city seal.
No, I would agree.
Yeah.
But if we've got people who are coming aboard, and I guess the question is, do you need any, would it be helpful to the mayor to have a resolution about this particular issue? I mean, I think that having mobility for the people who are here is really important. And I don't know what it means that you, or how your procurement goes for, or allocation of the vehicle. Can you just give us a sense of that? In other words, you say buy another car, is that all we need to do, or is there something else that's behind it?
Yeah, so it's really, there is a line item in the budget. I want to say it's $425,000 or $450,000. We just talked about it at the DPW budget at public facilities, their capital line item, and that is in fleet. That is where they, that is one way that they buy passenger vehicles on an annual basis. Each department that needs that would submit a request through the fleet program. Shauna Sullivan would work with me. Ultimately, police and fire are a little different. Obviously, they are a very high priority, but they have their own kind of process. And then when we look at our other departments, what is mission critical? Is a vehicle, for assessing, for example, where they're a little more intermittent, then we would likely push them towards the pool car system. In a situation like this, inspectional services makes it clear that they have a new employee coming on that needs a vehicle to do their job. That would be a very high priority. And that would just go through the normal system, and a car would be purchased. And maybe in the short term, if the vehicle's purchased and it hasn't arrived yet, ISD might rely on the pool car system while it's working its way from the manufacturer. But otherwise, that's pretty standard practice.
Well, I guess, just speaking for myself, I hope we can get, I'd hate to have the department staff basically sitting inside when they need to be outside because they can't get there. There's no vehicle, and so I don't know.
Well, we may do as far as for zoning enforcement and leaf blowers, so, but, obviously when the new inspector comes aboard, we'll need something, or for the time being, we can, use a fleet car.
Yeah, I mean, we want it to be more efficient. Yeah,
Well,
and
yes.
Okay.
Answer that one?
Thank you. On the car topic, when we do buy cars, are they electric vehicles?
Yes.
And Commissioner, can you explain for me when one of these inspectors goes out, what kind of equipment are they taking with them generally for their?
They're taking their iPad typically so they can review plans once they get to the job, because everything's on the system. Sometimes like plumbing inspectors have certain tools with them to read temperature of water to make sure it's not a scalding temperature. Electrical usually carries testing devices, things to that effect.
Generally like a backpack's worth of
Yeah,
stuff.
small toolbox
Not
at
even-
best.
They-
At best.
Each car has a black inspector bag. It's huge.
Got
And
it,
it has
okay.
everything they could possibly need. Rain
Boots.
gear, rubber boots, hard hat,
Gloves.
safety equipment, anything they need is already in. We purchase that for each vehicle, not each inspector.
Right.
Understood.
Then they have their additional equipment that we purchase for them that they put in that bag also.
Gotcha, so we couldn't get, I was trying to get it, could we just get you like 3 e-bikes or something?
Yeah.
But.
No, no.
Those are good break the winter.
Understood, but you know, if there's less movement happening, anyway, okay, that answers my question.
I'm gonna recognize Councilor Albright and notice that we've been joined by Councilor Black and Councilor Farrell as well.
Okay.
And then get Councilor Guest.
So the increase in the personnel line has to do with a new electrical inspector.
Mhm.
And is there also a half? You said one became full-time.
Yes, so currently we have 2 part-time inspectors, one for plumbing and gas and one for electric. We're going to eliminate the part-time electric and make that a full-time.
I see. So there's not a new 100%.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, the part-time inspector was budgeted for about $20,000, which for between vacations and things like that, that's all we really needed them for, is the backup for when they were out, vacations. So when you come back, I'll tell you, sometimes you come back and there's a huge list of things to do.
Yeah.
So what we tried to do is alleviate some of that by having the part-time inspector fill in while somebody was out. But at this point, because of the demand in, you know, the electrification and the energy, change in the energy codes, more electrical is being inspected than there is on the gas and plumbing side. So they need an additional, and that's where, if we're getting complaints, typically that's where we're gonna get them, is on the electrical side.
So is there anything else in the budget that's increasing besides that for the personnel?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's 121,000 increase. So maybe the sum of that is just step increases.
Step increases and I would say the electrical inspector, when you go from part-time to full-time, you have your benefit costs too.
Yeah, well, the benefits are in a different line.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. The, what does the leaf blower person do in the winter?
He's off in the winter,
So he only works in the.
April
leaf
to
blower
December.
season.
April to December.
Okay. I'm gonna raise a topic that I know you're not happy about, but
Okay,
it's about special permits.
Yeah.
And making sure that people are doing what they promised to do in their conditions.
okay,
And, I mean, this came up recently for me with the school over on, Center Street, who had special permits that dated back to 96 and 97.
this is not the one on the corner?
No, the Country Day, is that?
Country Day,
Country
okay,
Day.
okay,
And nobody knew that they had a special permit back in 96 and 97.
Mhm.
So when they wanted to make changes, they were like implementing changes that weren't legal according to the special permit.
Where?
They were unaware. So, we've raised this a couple of times about how can we, without it being complaint driven, because who's gonna complain until something like this comes up and they're gonna change what they're doing and it comes up?
Mhm.
How are people gonna know to complain? And if you guys don't pick up the special permit conditions and go out and periodically look at the special permit conditions and to see if they're complying?
We actually have a meeting later this week, maybe tomorrow, with planning and ISD to go over how we can try to get this squared away and to do
So you're
some
gonna,
sorts of
will
enforcement.
you have enough staff to pick that
Oh,
up?
well, yeah, we'll take them as it goes and we'll see where it drives us. If we then need additional staff work, then maybe we'll request it, but, you know, until we need the additional personnel, we'll address it then.
Okay, but it's very rewarding and exciting to see that you're gonna start looking at these
We'll
conditions. and-
we'll see what we can do, yes.
Okay, that sounds good.
Josh, you had something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, thank you very much, Councilor Albright, for raising this. This is something that Mayor Laredo raised as well. He heard from constituents, and I agree. I don't think anybody would even know to complain. I also don't think we the Commissioner and I have talked about this. We don't necessarily need to go out and do every single one of them. If word gets out that we're doing them, even some of them, then I think we will see better compliance.
But time goes by and people don't, somebody sells a house to somebody else and the permit goes with the property and they don't even know.
Yep.
So you can't even count on word of mouth.
Typically, things like that, when that happens, especially with the newer system that we have now, the special permits are on the site, so as the inspectors are reviewing it, say they wanted to put an addition on a two-family house that was in a single residence zone, to increase the nonconformity, we would see that.
Yeah, but if, let's say I buy a house.
Yeah.
And there's a requirement that there be screening for a part of the house that was approved
Mhm.
by a special permit.
Mhm.
And I don't know there's a special permit that required that there be that screening.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything, I'm not building on or adding on.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's supposed to be screening, so unless somebody knows that, and the only people that know that are you and maybe the abutters.
Right, but the abutters would be typically the ones that would raise the flag, because the abutters are the ones who have gone to the meetings while they were going for their special permit, and they're the ones who are more aware. They may bring it up to the homeowner and say, hey, you know, there's a special permit on this property, you can't cut these bushes down, or you can't cut that tree down,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
It's hard to it's hard to rely on abutters to do that because they don't wanna make trouble, they don't wanna rock the boat. They don't wanna start off on a bad foot with their new neighbors.
Yep, yep.
So it really requires us to do something about those conditions, I think.
Mhm.
And I think the mayor probably, having been on land use for so long, I'm sure he agrees with me.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's where I.
Yeah.
So
That's
they're
where I'm
already
going.
on the property, you
Right.
would know when you're
That's
purchasing.
it, yeah,
It should be in the welcome wagon basket.
yeah.
We don't
Well,
call it
and
when
then-
that's what it's-
So they run with the property, and typically when you get a deed,
Right.
it's probably brought up in the title search,
Great.
so it's,
They'll
and
handle
people
it.
can claim ignorance too.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, enough said, I mean, you get my
I
point.
would,
And the one other,
Go ahead.
well, I was just agreeing with our chair that maybe we do need a resolution to make sure that at least that there's attention paid to the new car that's needed. Because it seems like you need not only the new car for the new person, but maybe another half of a car.
it would be nice to have a half a cup.
So I think maybe.
That's called a bicycle.
I think they got it.
I'm getting.
Yeah.
We're gonna have this resolved by about 9:01 tomorrow morning. I'll have it done before you write the resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The resolution and take credit for it.
Oh, well then, totally different question.
I am Counselor Gordon, and then I'll come over to Counselor Malachi. And excuse me, Counselor Judd. I'm sorry, were you before Counselor?
Almost after.
All right, excuse me, Counselor Gordon, will you bear?
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Counselor
All right, thank you. I actually wanted to follow up because I do think you were whispering it's recorded, you know, the special permit is recorded. So if there is a lawyer involved, they should be handing to the new owner the special permit, so they.
Yeah,
should
for the
know.
word, I should.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just suggesting that that's something that, you know, should happen. but-
Typically, a title search is done, they're easy to find out.
Hey, that's not gonna happen. Okay, so I was gonna ask you, you know, just even in terms of your responses, that you talked about the problems, you know, in terms of the biggest bottlenecks. So you talked about, you know, that in terms of people pulling a permit,
Mhm.
that it's actually that they either don't submit all the information or they revise their plans. So, you know, I don't know, you know better than we do in terms of how to change the process so that it benefits. I mean, it's a problem because it puts you in this back and forth.
Yes,
And I know that you try and get everything as complete as you can before they even initiate the review.
yeah,
You
because if
initiate-
not, sometimes it's a waste of time.
Everybody's.
So, really, the process hasn't changed. Process has always been the process. We always need certain information. We need a little bit more information because ordinances have changed, things like that. So we're asking surveyors to do a little more work to get, so we can get like the facade ratio and things like that. But a lot of times, for whatever reason, especially with the new system, when you apply for a permit with the new system, the day they hit send or submit, okay, that clock starts ticking. Now, they may not have all the information there, typically they don't,
Mhm.
and they'll add it piecemeal, okay? What we used to do with the counter is when they would come to the counter and not have all the information, we would just send it, yeah, you need to you make them a list, you need this, and this,
Mhm.
and when you get that, come on back.
Okay,
And then they would come back, sometimes something else would be missing, they say, you didn't get the tree permit, you know, and we'd be discussing it. And then our clock wouldn't start to tick until we had all the information.
Okay,
Now the clock ticks as soon as they hit submit. So it doesn't look good time wise. We also have, sometimes we'll have permits that are,
so,
but
no, do we need to revert back to the old system?
no, no, I don't think
No,
so.
no, we're
It's-
just sort of saying it puts it on you and it should be on them, right?
Well, it is on them, and so we send comments back to them saying, you know, we're missing the survey. You didn't go to fire,
Right.
your plans aren't stamped by the architect. You know, these are things that we go over constantly, the tree permit's not here.
Right.
So it's just an ongoing thing. It was, the thing, it was the same way back in the day before we had the, NewGov system, but except we just wouldn't take it. If not, we would just have papers piled up all over the place. Now, they just pile up in the system.
Well, let me come back to you. I just want to make sure that, so, but.
Well, I'm just sort of wanting to solve his problem, but I just sort of feel like, because I don't want it to be a demerit or something that you have to deal with. I think that people should be compliant and they should reach a place where everything's is in front of you and then you can move.
That's what we shoot for.
Okay.
That's what we shoot for.
Just follow
just
up
on
on
that.
that, yeah.
Why can't they change the system that they can't hit send until they have in each of the boxes a link to the document that they
It
need?
just doesn't work that way. Go ahead, Ted.
There are times that people actually put a piece of paper and handwrite not applicable. So even though we're telling them they need to submit it, they're telling us, no, they don't.
Yeah.
But they,
So
they
that-
said it's not applicable, so.
Correct.
The problem.
Yeah, of course,
Oh, you actually put in the
Not a
system,
problem.
required documents, and like Beth said, that's all they have to do is upload a document in that spot, and they bypass that step. And then when we're reviewing it, we say, well, you're missing your survey. It was required, by you know, you're building an addition, where is it? Oh, well, our survey hadn't come in yet, but we wanted to apply anyways. So,
Well,
well, it doesn't work that way, but
I mean, there's one situation.
Because
Right.
in the special permit process, we created a set of the rules for the council many years ago. To say that unless and until the planning department signed off and said an application was complete, the clock couldn't start for a public hearing or any kind of city council process. In other words, people had to, what we're having in the past were people doing something like you've described for building permits, which they would just literally file an empty jacket and say, this is an application for a special permit for this process.
mhm,
And then the land use committee would have to schedule something, and then they would show up at the public hearing with their
Okay.
documents,
yeah.
you know, and ask everybody to review it, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
And so we, working with Weedy Young, who was then in the law department, we went through a whole process to create a special rule so that the planning department has to certify that the documents are all complete before this clerk can accept it. And then the clock starts because of the statutory limits that state sets in terms of timing for special permit work. So what I'm wondering about is whether you can administratively do something similar, because what I don't like to see is people in the public say, I applied and it's taken 6 months to get my permit. And in fact, it's not 6 months to get the permit. They haven't gotten their act together.
Yeah.
And so that you can make an appropriate review.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether.
So currently, what we do is, so when the inspectors, when it comes in for a review, it usually goes to the district inspector first to make sure they have all this information. First comment they put in is, please submit all the information on the list, or this permit will be denied within 14 days. So what we do is we put a time clock on it. If they can't give the information to that district inspector, they will deny it, and Deb will archive the application. So, and then they have to apply again, and it's sort of a stop. But, you know, sometimes when it gets to Andy as the plans reviewer will see, you know, he looks at the plans for zoning and building code with the fine tooth comb, and he'll find something. And then, you know, he'll have to write back to the applicant and basically tell them, say, hey, page 84 was not stamped, or whatever the reason is, and he'll have to wait then. And typically we'll give them 30 days, because that's what we do, But we considered that a full application at the time it goes to the plans examiner. And so he has 30 days to review for our building code. To issue or deny.
Okay.
So when, I'm just wanting to follow up, so when you actually say that the clock starts, was that something that you put in place or?
It's state building code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so at full application, we have 30 days to either issue or deny. Okay?
all right. And then the other question I had was you spoke to the internal slowdown in terms of progress because of other departments.
Yeah, I mean, because when it comes in, they do a workflow review, and so does it have to go to conservation,
Right.
to go to historic, and they have to do their reviews, okay?
Okay,
And yeah, so that's part of the process.
okay, all
Yeah.
right, so there's nothing that could shift or
No,
be-
no, so we have it all built into it. Before, they would have had to have gotten all those approvals prior
Mhm.
and then apply for the building permit, but now it's just part of the workflow.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so the before. why
But the
did-
time really doesn't change, is what I'm trying to say. They would have had to have gotten these four before, they would have given us the entire packet, say, here, Commissioner, here it is,
Okay,
okay? Now, it's part of the workflow when they apply, once the workflow is submitted by the building inspector and where it's supposed to go next, then multiple departments get it at the same time.
okay,
Yeah.
all right,
So, but-
and-
The question, I guess, is that because of the budget discussion, is there something that the budget affects in your ability to do this, or is there something else? Because,
No, I don't think it has anything to do with the budget.
well,
all right.
we may save
No, I'm
that.
just trying to think if he needs more help, or there was, I was trying to get to whether or not there's something that he actually, and that's where I went even to thinking about like the,
We put questions, help aids, ordinances in the building permit application for the applicant to read. And do they read them, Deb?
Never. All it's not- There is a section they have to read that, they have to acknowledge they've read all of these things. Everybody checks that box and digitally signs their name.
And they don't even know what
They
they're
don't even
doing.
know what they signed.
Yeah.
You call them and ask them, did you read this? Oh, no, where's that? Well, it's in the application where the section that you, oh, I just signed it and kept going, or my office girl did it.
We
We can't help you with that.
also just recently. I
It'll
didn't
be
mean to
ongoing,
interrupt.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've also just recently, Deb has reduced the permit application by what, 5, 6 pages?
6 pages.
Just to try and make it a little easier. We're always trying to streamline it to make it easier, A, for the inspectors and B, for the public. So we're always changing and trying to make things work better.
So let me go, I thank Counselor Gordon and then Counselor Maliki and then Counselor Rowe.
So I just have a question about the desk, and I don't have a lot of experience
The
with
counter?
the counter,
Okay.
sorry, not the desk, the
That's
counter.
all right.
And the day that I came,
Mhm.
I was lucky I got to chat with you.
Yep.
But while I was waiting, there was quite a queue of
Yeah,
people. So I was wondering, as I was standing there, and I was thinking about Mayor Laredo's customer service aspect of city government, if it wouldn't be helpful, and maybe that was just a moment in time,
Mhm.
to have more than one person at the counter. One person took up, I don't know, very, very long time. The
Mhm.
next person, I don't think, had a long question.
Mhm.
You were able to help me very quickly.
Mhm.
So, and I don't know if that's a common occurrence, but it did make me wonder if there was funding for someone else to be at the counter, and if that's something that you've noticed as an issue.
We always have a building inspector on duty at the counter throughout the entire day. So I can tell you, and I know you're a new counselor, but Josh could probably attest to this, that before the system, all those windows would be 3, 4, 5 people deep. And I would be working the counter between 10 and 12, and I would service every one of those people, every one of those people behind, on the other side of the counter. It's a very busy counter. The busyness at the counter has subsided a lot. But I'll tell you, it was actually badness. But through it, and I think we do a good job.
Oh, yeah, it was not a
Some
question.
questions are a little more, involved than others, and they take a little extra time. Sometimes the inspector will answer the question and maybe jump to somebody else and say, hey, what do you need? What can I help you with? While he's getting squared away with what he's doing. So we bounce around, Andy bounces around, he's typically at the counter between 10 and 12. And like I said, we always have somebody in the counter which most building departments do not. Most building departments, they're there from 8 to 10, they go do their inspections, there's no one there except office staff. And then they come back in the afternoon and they'll talk with the public then. But at least here in Newton, my predecessor we always had somebody at the counter.
Yeah, and just to be
Agree on
clear,
that.
Go ahead.
Can I just add to that for you?
yeah, I just wanna say it was not a criticism at all.
No,
I was
wait.
just curious if you needed
No, no.
more people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What we do, the building inspectors upstairs come in at 7 a.m. And one of them comes in at 8. So from 7 to 9, all those inspectors are there available to help everybody at the counter.
Yeah.
When somebody comes in and their district inspector is not available, we give them their actual counter hours for that day. It could be the 12 o'clock hour, the 1 o'clock hour, or the 2 o'clock hour. From 3 to 4, everybody is available for everybody.
Yeah.
So if you come in the day and you come between 12 and 2, say, you're only gonna get one person. Because everybody's out doing their inspections and Anthony is always in the office if he's not being pulled to a meeting. So we do have one backup at least. Then we have Howie, who also code enforcement, he can come up and help. So sometimes we may not judge the counter correctly when you were there, obviously. But no, I'm just trying to explain.
Yeah.
We do have
Yeah.
that backup that there is somebody else, so it's not just, oh, you only got this one person and you're done. It's not.
Yeah.
So when people call and they say, hey, is Paul Nelson in? Oh, you know what? Today he's got counter hours from 2 to 3 and then 3 to 4. That's when people will show up. We don't know from one person that's answering the phone to the next. We might have told 6 people to come between 2 and 3, and now all of a sudden it's his time's
Madness,
monopolized. So we'll get one of the other inspectors and say, hey, can you come up and give a hand? These people aren't waiting for him, so you can help these. So we do have that. I mean, I don't think another person would be able to do anything,
That's why I was
but
asking.
exactly.
And also working out the counter takes about 6 months, 7 months to actually know what you're doing.
And I was very impressed because you came out.
Yeah, no, I always come out, listen, my door is always open, and when I see it's really busy at the counter, and if I have time, I'll go up to the counter. I enjoy the counter. I miss the counter. I do.
I'm the one out there pulling them away.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me just comment that the phone menu has changed so that there is a number that you can punch where you can say, you go through the menu of various inspectors and then say, would you like to talk to a real person or something like that? And anybody,
No.
and you can get somebody to answer, which I think is I don't want to have an
Yeah.
AI agent talking to me.
Okay.
Counselor Maliki, and then.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to follow up on Councilor Albright's question about the special permit conditions. Is there in existence or a way to create from NewGov some kind of database of address conditions? That and ideally, I guess, if there are conditions that need to be kind of affirmatively checked, the way
I'm not sure if I follow you.
yeah, just to,
This is a
just
hard
make it, I'm just trying to think if there's a way to make it easier to do the follow-up. Or if there's a database that even, somebody from the public can look up, this house has special conditions on it, because, to Councilor Albright's point about, you don't wanna rely on abutters because they might be hesitant to, ruffle feathers. You might have people who've moved in next door that are totally different than the people that remember going to the public hearing. So there's no kind of institutional collective memory of
Mhm.
what's happened on a property.
I can help with that. So planning, we work really closely with ISD. Planning sort of creates the draft order for the council, gets approved, it gets attached to a property. ISD is responsible for enforcement. So all of it's coming from planning really in the council. I think the way NewGov is organized is by address, obviously, and then a property with a special permit gets a tag that it has the special permit. The order gets uploaded to the page for staff on the staff side. And there is also a corresponding record for the public side, but there's no way that I know of to sort of attach conditions to that property. I think I understand what you're asking. It's
The
just,
conditions are in the special permit.
yeah, it's not, like
Mhm.
they jump off the page onto the NuGo
Yeah,
platform, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but there's no way to sort of look up.
You'd have to look
This
at
is a
the-
list of
You'd have to look at the
items that
special
have
permit.
screening-
Yeah,
Yeah.
Screening requirements.
that's where I think we help ISD when they're asked to enforce is will, help give context of the special permit, the decision, where it came from and
landscape plan.
yeah, we'll provide the information to ISD.
Because when they have a landscape, and this is a good example, and I'd love to figure out how to do this for tree permits, separate from special permits, but there's a landscape plan. They put in all this good stuff say they're gonna put in, and 10 years later, are those trees and everything's still there?
Mhm.
And the other question I had was, since Andrew Marvellis is the person who's doing the reviews of big projects and stuff like that, I believe, is he also the person doing the short-term rental enforcement?
Yeah,
Him?
yes.
And
Yeah.
how is his time sufficient? Is his time sufficient for everything, or?
Andy is very good at organizing his time. I can tell you that much.
Is that a place where another half person or?
If we do need a half person at some point in time, maybe we'll look at it, but currently I don't think we should.
All right, thank you.
I have a question myself, but Councilor Roach, let me.
I have two questions. Well, one statement and then a question. One is I share,
Oh, yeah, okay, Councilor Kalis, I'll come to you, I'm sorry. There's the screen is not as visible to me as come back. Go ahead.
I share Counselor Albright's skepticism about the likelihood of compliance and therefore enforcement for special permit conditions. I think that relying on neighbors is not going to get the job done. And so I would urge you to take up her suggestion and think about, greater compliance review on special permits.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we're in the process. I have a meeting with Katie, I believe, tomorrow to talk about this.
I just wanted to reinforce the point.
Okay.
Do you do an analysis of projects that are in the pipeline to understand demand for inspectional services? So I know we got a lot of big stuff that's up and running, and certainly Northland will get bigger quickly.
Mhm.
Is that part of the planning process?
As far as,
Demand for inspectional services, right? So we get these big buildings going
Yeah,
up, and
yeah.
I assume that those buildings are gonna require, just like they require more electricians and plumbers, they're gonna require more electrician and
More inspection.
inspections.
yeah, so currently we also have something with Northland to see if we can manage some sort of on-site inspections if ISD does get overwhelmed. I believe it was part of their special permit when that was written.
Okay, because I know that there's Northland, and then,
Riverside, what?
and Riverside
Yeah.
can go at any moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Riverside's been going for longer than I've employed in the city, so we'll see what happens.
And then, the VCOD may generate new demand for inspectional services.
If that's the case, and at the time when the demand sees it, we'll look into more and more personnel.
Okay, I want to just recognize Councilor Kalis.
I can see him in the screen back there.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. You don't have to look at me. It's okay. To Counselor Malachi's question, and maybe Counselor Albright's as well. So I'm wondering, special permits are public information, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. So when I was running my campaign, I had some people that knew how to use AI, and they were able to take public information and sort it in ways that I found was just astounding. Are you using any AI or would you, to basically sort and be able to understand where what's happening with these special permits and do it by address?
I don't know if I really understand the question. I think.
So you're
talking
able,
about actually see a violation or find out.
yeah,
about the
because
violation?
if any of these things that are public information are probably already in AI and are already searchable. I don't know how to do it specifically, but I would really encourage Mr. Morse and anybody from the administration to look into this because I think that you might have a solution already there, especially because it's public information.
Okay, Mr. Morris, you want to respond about AI in this context?
Sure, certainly in this context.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we don't have enough hours in the day. Just talk about AI. But no, it's amazing. And I do think there is an opportunity here. Councilor Kalis, I know exactly what you're talking about. Essentially, Anthony, what we could do is we could take, for example, and do a macro dump of our special permit information that we have and essentially task AI with generating all of the special permit conditions for whatever properties we put in and then have it come back. And we would need to do some spot checking to make sure, because, you know, it's
Not perfect.
still evolving. It's not perfect. We wouldn't want to
No.
enforce on something that we're not positive of.
Yeah.
But it certainly would create a starting point
Mhm.
for a database. That's just one of a lot of examples of where AI is a game changer for municipal government and of course, private sector as
Yeah,
well.
and things we gotta take into consideration too, where consistency rulings are written for special permits where there would be changes that would be done that more than likely AI would not be able to see, but that would have to be a double check also.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a double check, but you know, for neighbors who might want to search on other households, is there a special permit there? For counselors to want to search on things, are there special permits applied here? It gives you a starting point that's very quick and probably eases the people at the counter and is then usable to dig deeper if you need to.
Yeah.
I think AI
Yeah,
is
they are public.
an opportunity for, and a challenge as, you know, ask it to draw a map of Europe. You'll get a sense of.
Yeah, you really, not all the information you get is like Josh was saying earlier, it's it'll say things that are true sometimes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
some of them are, but it can be helpful.
Absolutely.
Good point. Councilor Dallenbeth, and I'd like to get to a couple of last questions and then move this along if we can.
Thanks, Chair Baker. So actually on this topic of AI, I'm not an AI fan generally. I've said that a few times, but does seem like there could be an opportunity in the kind of clerical work here, and that might mean, I don't know if the city is currently paying for any AI subscriptions or if that has been budgeted and planned for. But it seems like there are a few opportunities that have been identified. One is the kind of compiling of special permit conditions, but also, I don't know if there's like a new Gov AI plus, you know, but like my emails now tell me, hey, you said attached in this email, but you didn't actually attach anything. So like, hey, page 47 doesn't have an architect stamp on it before they upload, you know, if that kind of check is a possibility that can happen ahead of time. And if that's something that needs to be budgeted for and planned for from an extent standpoint, then we should be thinking about that ahead of time.
That sounds like something that would be used for the people who are uploading at the time, more so than the office itself.
Yes, but it would have to be a feature built into the platform that they're uploading to, not coming from that. So
Basically a quality check that's automatic,
yeah.
you know, right?
And then if there's this, I don't know, the special permits usually come with, or the conditions come with like due by dates or?
They're tied to a phase of a project, so typically at building permit, occupancy, we try to tie it to a more natural check in the
Got it.
process.
It'd be nice if we were to have a system like that, if it could then just say, you know, pop up on your calendar and say, hey, this project is supposed to be at this point by this day, make sure you're checking on this thing.
So, I think part of what the conversation is illustrating that, and I think it's actually to the credit of the administration that they are thinking about these questions, that the quality of administration matters. It's not just the nature of the rules we passed as ordinances and the budget amount, but what is going on behind the scenes to make all of this work. I would just mention something that I think is really an important initiative of the department, and I hope that it will continue. And I just wanted to know what the budget implications of the timing are. And that is the whole process of moving old documents into scanned status so that you can now look up, right now, I think there's been more up.
We're up to P.
Are. But those are street names, right?
Yep,
In other words,
and alphabetical.
so I don't know what that represents, but it's certainly a majority of the city. But I don't know how long it will take to get all of the old stuff in, because part of the challenge is that you're dealing with, in some cases, fully electronic files, and in other cases, partially electronic and partially
Mhm.
paper.
Mhm.
And the scanning process takes time. And obviously, you want to make sure it's done correctly and all of that, so that there's a quality control. But do we have what are the resources that are available to get that finished so that you can be
Actually,
much?
I talked with Josh just yesterday about this, and we're gonna have a meeting with our information coordinator, Kristen Patton, who's been spearheading the project, along with one of our inspectors, Buddy Lamplow, as far as, I had given Josh a time frame on it. I think it was 2 to 4 years at the current rate that we're doing, but we're gonna see what we can come up with to accelerate that. And once we get all the streets done, of all just the regular property files, not the big files like BC and Newton Wellesley Hospital and all the big properties, because we can take those big properties and put them a file just right underneath the front counter, and we can remove all the other files in between and, make a little more room in ISD, but that, we're looking at trying to speed that process up with, getting it done quicker.
Well, this again, these are like the cars these are things that don't appear in the budget now, but, and one of the reasons I'm prepared to move this budget, but these are the kind of things that I think add a lot of value and save a lot of time, and the mayor's committed 99% of the taxable revenue, so I'm a little nervous that if we vote this budget, there's only a very small sliver of money left over to do the things if you want to come in with a supplemental, which I would encourage you to do. The car, I mean, these are things that leverage the time that you have and the people you have to greater effect. And I just, I want to support the department, but also just raise a concern that these other activities that are behind the scenes that ultimately make the whole system work better are important that we fund. And I don't see the resources in the budget to do them yet, but I'm subject to education on that question. Are they, and I'm looking at I guess, Mr. Morris here on this one.
Yeah, so what I would say is, you all are singing the same tune. So, Mayor Laredo, one of many things we talked about, month of January, was accelerating the scanning project. So like I said, I've been having conversations with Anthony. I think 2 to 4 years is just too long. The mayor agreed to that. So, like Anthony said, he's going to meet with his team to give us options as to how we can accelerate. And we will work with the administration and, if needed, the city council down the road to secure the resources necessary to make that happen. I don't suspect it's going to be a significant amount of money, so I suspect this is something that we'll be able to resolve within the confines of the budget.
Yeah, and ideally, what we'd like to do is still keep it the way we've been doing, as far as in the manner and organizing in the way this final push to get these properties scanned into the system, that it follows the same procedure that we had been doing all along, so it doesn't change. Because what we really don't want to have is junk in and, junk out.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah, I know
Their minutes, for instance, we're gonna talk about historic and planning, but there are historic minutes that Mr. Morris knows that still need to be updated, and the question is what resources are available to make sure that they're done, because commissioners can't rely on their memory of what they've done. They've got to have a record, and so does the public. So those are the kind of things that, we want to make sure that you have the resources to do, not just you, but when we get to planning, the same thing, that make sure that the backroom work that's necessary to make things work is the resources are there. And that's our budget request. That's really what this is all about. Anybody else? If not, I'd entertain a motion on this budget. Councilor Oliver moves approval. The number is, if you're willing to let me restate it, $2,457,396 plus the supplemental CIP and CIP. I don't have the CIP. I don't think there's any real CIP money in inspectional services. No. So that's really kind of an empty promise.
So I'm building a new office somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, let's just
The
go
vice
for
chair
it.
would come in. Right? Yeah, and this is a straw vote. I mean, it normally goes I'll report this to the full committee of the whole, and the committee of the whole then acts on it and then reports it to the full council. For those of you who haven't been through the budget, it's a sort of an arcane process, but it's what we do. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Counselor Kayla said, are you aye? I didn't hear you, but I just.
I'm an aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that does it for you, Commissioner. Thank you, Ms. Livermore.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
we appreciate, what you're doing and, I'm glad to see Mr. Eberhard out there. There's an
He's out there doing it.
Yeah.
What are you doing in the afternoon today, just to mix it up? Yeah, he's always mixing it.
Yeah, thank you.
Katie, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So,
Yeah, thanks.
I think our next opportunity is here from planning, and if you want to, well, you want to come up and just for the public, just identify yourselves for the public record, and then we will get underway. And the planning department budget, and the vice chair is. We have CPA. It says community housing and development and planning. I think those are the three accounts that are dealing with.
Yes.
Just about.
It was warm earlier, but now it's not.
That thing's actually on AC, I turned it down.
Oh.
You can turn it off, you can turn it off for me.
And you might close the door just so.
It is.
So, again, you gave us an extensive memo, in response to questions that were asked, but there may be questions on the responses. So, but I think, again, might be helpful just to take a look at the org chart, because, there are places where they overlap. For instance, the historical planners do in fact work very closely with ISD, and their offices are in the ISD section. And they're important resources for everybody. And, but please identify yourself as well for the public.
My name's Katie Wewell. I'm the acting or interim director of planning and development. And I have Laura here.
Laura Kreitzer, I'm the acting deputy director.
Okay. And you have,
I'll have my own presentation after this. I think.
okay, just want to make sure you guys.
I feel.
Molly doesn't like to share the limelight, she wants to take.
Yeah, look at mom here.
Well, you get a chance to get to your show.
She'll close it up for us.
So, I'm gonna indicate that we're talking about a budget amount, just for purposes, almost $2.5 million. And that's a significant amount of money. We'll note that the budget is for 227 is smaller than the budget for 226. And perhaps there's some explanation about what's going on in the change, and you can walk us through that part of it, but also if members of the committee have questions about aspects of this particular budget, I want to make sure they get answered. So, do you want to just give any further introduction to us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when I compiled the memo with Laura, I kind of saw as a continuation of the conversation we've been having. We had 2 pre-budget meetings. I think there was a presentation associated with the first one, so I kind of wanted to, address the questions more directly. I think we've gone over the org chart as, something that's really unique to planning. There are several different divisions, I think 6 or 7 within planning, and they each have their own expertise. So, historic preservation, current planning, long-range planning, conservation, housing and community development. We have an urban designer. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Transportation and CPA. No, sorry, Molly. I don't have it. Um,
Like I
and
said, she likes the limelight.
yeah, I wouldn't want to, use no introduction. And then when you pointed out the reduction, I think probably the biggest or the two biggest reductions are largely due to the transfer of the Economic Development Division to the Executive Office. So we previously had one full-time staff member in that division. Now we have two who are now under the mayor's office. And our consulting line was reduced by about 100,000. I know it's of interest, so happy to talk
I'm
more
sorry,
about that.
consulting, I just couldn't.
The consulting line item,
Yeah.
I think there was a reduction of about 100,000 from that, so I think that's a larger chunk, so.
Okay, but now you had some part-time people who are no longer part of the department or not?
Yes, Nicole Friedman, the transportation coordinator, her position's not being sustained, further.
Okay, and, but is that handled by Public Works? I just want to understand the function. or-
No, that's.
Yeah, we have a director of transportation planning who will, I think, absorb some of that work. I think some of what Nicole was working on also had to do with electric vehicle charging. So I think our recommendation is that maybe gets shifted to the sustainability division. I think we're still kind of working that out as well.
Okay, so, Mr. Morris, you want to,
Yes.
Councilor Oliver? Yeah.
Can I just clarify that? So she's, I think for FY 26, she was half-time, right? Part-time at least,
Yeah, I think about
right?
10 to 20 hours.
Yeah,
a
with the
week.
smaller stuff.
Yeah,
I recall.
yeah.
And then in FY 27, she's rolling off the budget, so she's here through the end of June.
Yeah.
Is basically what
Yeah.
we're, okay, I just want to make sure I heard that right. Thank you.
Okay, so, questions for the, no, let me start with Councilor Wright and then Councilor.
This is a question left over from last year, which still doesn't make sense to me, hasn't been explained properly. So from Mr. Early, I received a spreadsheet with consulting. And it's like original budget, how much comes in or comes out, actual expenses, available balance. Now, I know for consulting, because this is in FY years and sometimes it's over, so it's not all the same. It's not nice and neat in that, but the numbers don't add up. And that bugs me a lot. So in 2026, like you said, you had a budget of 200,000. And according to Mr. Curley, you added roughly 52,000, but what was left over from the previous year was 129,000. So I was wondering what you would have thought that rolled over into FY 26, but it doesn't. Where does that extra money go? Because that's like 70,000 that kind of disappeared. And so in 2026, your revised budget, because you had that 50,000, was 251,000. And the actual expenses in 2026 said it was only 6,600, and that available balance is 245. So is that one of the reasons? So you have 245,000 in your consulting budget that from last year you haven't used. So now you're going to put out another 100 on top of it.
No, it'll be cut down to 100,000.
Yeah, the results.
So every year,
Saying that you have left over available balance at 2026 in consulting is $245,000.
so that might be true, but as of July 1, we will have 100,000 available. So they close the account for that year, they open a new one for the new year.
Okay.
If you have existing contracts, they'll let you extend those.
So if
But
there's any
otherwise-
extra, but if there's any extra money, where does that go?
I believe it goes back in the general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily carry over. You have to have a good reason.
But so let's say, so in FY 26, I'm looking here, again, I forgot my sheets in the printer, so I'm looking on my phone. It had transfer in roughly 52,000 into 2026, so that might have been a contract that.
It might have been
continued
continuing
between there.
contract, yeah.
But it doesn't, so then it doesn't show like, so in FY 25, you had a leftover balance of 129,000. 52,000 went over, so that's kind of saying 75,000 went to the general funds. And is that something we can see? Or it goes into the general funds?
So that would be something that we could get, I think most easy would be to get that from the comptroller, everything that drops to free cash at the end of the year. So he has that fully broken down before it gets certified.
And that's a,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm still having a little problems with it, but that's okay. I'll dig in more. Just really ground maintenance supplies, there's a line item. Why is planning have ground maintenance?
that's,
supplies?
that's the
Yeah.
conservation, that's the $60,000 that takes care of the conservation lands in the city.
Oh, okay.
That's, and we fought very hard to get,
We did.
that number up, so.
We don't want.
Yeah. Yeah, if anything, we want more.
I was just wondering how planning.
Since I was out in the
supplies-
conservation, in charge, I was pulling up garlic mustard and went on with other people. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great custom.
Oh, yeah.
Councilor Albright.
So I sent you an email because I was looking at the personnel line and saw that it had dipped. And I forgot about the economic development person moving out. But you also said you're losing some admin people.
Yep. There's 2 positions in admin that aren't being funded into next year. It's largely, over time, I think, with NewGov and other sort of technology, it kind of, it didn't support a full-time workload for those 2 positions.
Were they not working full time when they were here? There was not enough work for them to do?
Well, I think there's just, as things have become more electronic over the last few years,
I see.
we have
Yeah.
positions that they just don't really reflect
Okay,
the needs of the department anymore.
okay.
I do have a question though about in the historical, the degree to which we can get, what the minutes caught up. Can you remind us about what is being done for that? Because it really concerns me. You have a regulatory body without any record of what they've done, and, that's really.
Well, I mean, we do have the recordings, so those are always available.
No, but that's very hard to.
But we are
but they're
working.
Supposed to be on the agenda, as Mr. Morris knows, for the historic meetings, their approval of minutes that are the public records that people rely on for commissioners, and to go back and do a recording, review is impossible for volunteers. They just can't do that.
And we are working, we've put together, staff has put together a spreadsheet, we are working on
But the
Getting
actual
down
minutes,
of the minutes. A
um,
spreadsheet of minutes to be done, and we're working, we've got additional staff. that can do
okay,
that.
so do you have a timetable for that getting finished?
I think it's just as staff can dedicate time, I think one thing to keep in mind is the 2 historic planners sort of support, the 5 commissions every month, and they're, 3-hour meetings. So I think just chipping away at it and making progress.
Well, I know that was done when we had Barbara here, because she did it, and then when she left, because of the change of something that happened, the minutes sort of fell by the wayside, and my concern is that she's been gone over a year, so we've got well over a year of minutes that are now outstanding. Somehow they have to be generated, and the backlog continues to increase every month, literally, because you have a meeting every month, and then you don't have minutes of what's. And if somebody comes in and says, I want to do something on my house, and they said, well, what did we do before? Nobody can prove what was done or what was said or anything. So that's really a very critical, it seems to me, deficiency that we need to get remedied. And I don't know, Mr. Morrison, you all, what is the structure of making that happen? Because that's a budgetary issue. If you need extra people to pull that together.
Yeah, I would. So the short answer is, I will get you a recovery schedule on those minutes before you take action on the overall budget, so that you have that, and so the council has that. I would say from a budget perspective, this is it is recovering where we're at now. I don't think we would, in fact, I know we wouldn't recommend that we hire a position to do that, because once we're caught up, it's obviously, we're more than capable of handling it within the department. But I do think that we're going to take a look at how we utilize the planning resources, as well as look at other departments that might be able to assist in this short-term issue in trying to recover those meeting minutes. Because I agree with you, as somebody who has had to go through audio, that's not easy. It's hard to search audio. It's a heck of a lot easier to search meeting minutes, so.
Well, and I think that you have a consulting account, and if this is a place where if you needed a part-time person or something to come in who can help with that process, it seems to me that's time and money well spent, because you want to have your historical folks focus on the current
exactly.
agenda, not being,
Right.
trying to
I
go
think
back
that
and
would
say,
be
gosh,
consulting.
in the first place, who said that? You know, but Barbara Kurz, when she was there, would generate minutes in real time, and they would be available. So I know that people have different work styles, but I just think this is one of those things that I hope that you can get that to us by the time we vote the budget, and then we can reassure the commission members, because that really is a burden on them to ask them to remember. And just like, you know, imagine we had no council orders, and then we had to sort of remember what we voted. That would be kind of awkward. So,
It's just, I think, on the Affordable Housing Trust, the minutes are unbelievably full. And as compared to our minutes, I mean, it says who says what and who said what, and they're much fuller than our reports.
I'm not, I'm just trying to get the record of actions as much as anything else, so that they can.
Well, I mean, but to be clear, decisions are generated for every meeting, so it's not that there's no record of actions in these meetings. That's done separate from the minutes.
Okay.
So we do have that.
All right, that's a relief.
Yeah.
All right.
And you have the recordings too.
And we have the
Yeah,
recordings.
Yeah, and I just to comment on the historic piece, I sort of feel as if it's a little more complicated. In fact, it's a lot more complicated, because if there's if there's either a certificate of appropriateness that's generated, or if, there's a waiver that's generated, it's based on specific things. So that all of that content has to be someone who knows what they're doing. It's not like you could just transcribe, or you can extract this
No,
information.
and that's
You
why.
have to be at the meeting and or reviewing the meeting in order to pull it out. So it's a higher level of.
It's not just a ministerial task. That's why I want to make sure that we can assure the public that that's being taken care of. That's
So
all.
the audio is available, but for this meeting, video is much more helpful, because you're looking at drawings and streetscapes and all this during it. And so why aren't we doing video for this? We have video for almost all our other meetings available.
We are doing it. The Zooms are available.
Okay, they are?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a link to see the previous Zoom and stuff?
I think we've started trying to do that we may not have everyone set up, but we've been started to try to do it for all the committees.
Okay.
All the planning committees.
Without belaboring the point, I'm hearing that you have the resources somehow to maybe catch up, but you need to somehow figure out how to do it. Is that a fair summary?
It's about, for me, it's more about making sure that we are providing adequate resources to catch up in what I consider a timely manner. Similar to what we were talking about with the scanning project. I don't want to be sitting here next year at budget time saying, we're still working on it. Just give us a little more time. So, but like I said, I will get you a recovery schedule before you vote out the budget.
Okay, fair enough.
So I just have one more
Yeah.
question. And I am concerned about consulting, because I'm concerned that you have enough, whether or not you'll have enough. And I don't know what this committee will be doing in the coming year. I mean, I guess we're in the coming year, at least the rest of this year. But what if there's a need from, we talked about the possible need of an architect. Well, I forget now what that was about.
It was to draw through a bunch of scenarios relative to the two driveway, two
Yeah,
family.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, and you don't have an architect on staff, and we were questioning whether there would be enough money to hire an architect to do that kind of work, and it would be an extremely useful thing to do. I mean, do you have any money to play with to do that kind of consulting?
Yeah, my understanding is, the consulting funds have gone, largely to the work of staff too.
I'm sure
So,
it has, but
I
is
think
there
it's
enough
just-
in the coming year?
I'm not sure. I think, yeah, I think it depends on the other priorities of SAP and, I want to be kind of mindful of where, what other things might come up that we need to dedicate consulting funds for, but I don't have sort of a scope or a price of what that would take. And I think it all depends on sort of the back and forth too with the committee and the planning department, like to generate new I don't think I could say.
Well, so the issue was, and I think that the chair agreed with me and others agreed with me that with an architect to do this kind of consulting work would be useful. Would be
Yeah.
useful for us, would be useful for people in the city. And the concern was that there's not enough money to do it. So now I'm raising that concern. It was something of interest to ZAP. Is there enough money to do that or any other really useful thing? Or I don't know.
I think I think the only unknown to me is how much that consultant would cost. I don't have a scope or a price associated yet. I can't imagine it would be 100,000. But I also don't know how much of that budget it
I
would
think
take.
you have to sort out the task, but I
Right.
think the question is, how much do you have in the planning consultant account right now? In this budget?
100,000.
100,000.
And do you have anything tied to that money right now?
Today it's a
Are there any contracts that are carrying over that you need to
Not
carry
that
over
I'm
money
aware
with?
of, no.
No.
So basically, I think we've got a budget.
Okay.
Enough. We're not the only committee that, and a resource, part of the city council that might call on that resource and the mayor might as well. So, but at least it's uncommitted at the moment. Let me go to Councilor Oliver, because they haven't spoken to Councilor Howard.
Thank you. So on that very topic, did you put in a request FY 27 for consulting? You must have, right? Because there's a placeholder. What did you put in there to get to that number? I'm just curious. I don't mean like line by line by line by line, but I'm just curious, like how did 100K come about? Is that just a number or, which, by the way, it could be as legit as anything else because we haven't gone through the year and said, these are the 9 things we're gonna do.
Right.
We kind of have a few things that we know are outstanding, but that might be about it. I'm just curious how that placeholder came about.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I'm happy to your point, it's not an exact science, and to Katie's point, it's a little difficult to predict because we're trying to anticipate what zoning and planning will be doing over the course of the next year. I think we took a look at all the items on the ZAP agenda, which many of them are going to be longer term discussions, and tried to estimate what we thought support would be needed for the committee. But if at the end of the day, this was true with any project, that the scope is beyond what we anticipated, we would need to secure additional funds in that account to help support the city council and or mayor. So if you take on something really big, then we may need to take another look at it.
And to that, I mean, I've gone through similar exercises where you basically say we've got, 2 really big projects, 1 medium size, and we'll allocate 4 little ones. And then you say, okay, 10, 25, 80, whatever you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully based on some historical information or in the best case scenario, maybe you do that, maybe you don't. I can think of a few of them that are out there that I certainly hope we get a big chunk out of this coming fiscal year for sure. And I'm just like, might be one of the reactions I have to that number, because I remember seeing something today that was 192 grand, and it's my fault because I didn't do a very good job preparing for this session. But I remember seeing 192K going, okay, that might be okay. But now that I'm thinking about it really hard, I don't know why I would think that number would be good or bad, because I don't know. I don't know how much the costs are then, I should say. But anyway, I'll leave it at that, but I think that might be one of those places where we might have to, somewhere down the line in this fiscal year, take a long, hard look at, because we do have some things coming around.
Well, I think I think that's a fair question, but I think it's important to have something in the budget that we can start to draw on. It's a little bit like snow and ice money,
It
you
sounds like-
know
it
it's gonna
sounds like
come.
that's there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you wanna make sure you've got something so that when the time comes, you can do it. I think Teal, for example, working on the, was very important in getting the facade ratio done. We couldn't have done that in-house by ourselves. So it's that kind of thing that you may get to. Any other questions though on this one? Yeah, Councilor Donovan.
Thank you, Chair. So what I'm hearing is if tomorrow I docketed 25 things that all needed a lot of work and attention and an architect, and we had to take them up in 6 months, we'd not be able to do that, basically.
That's fine.
I think
That's
it
fine
would
how
be
that
a
works.
prioritization conversation and understanding where the priorities are. If we did have, if we have a finite amount of resources, we would need to understand the committee's priorities, discuss with the administration, where should these city funds go? And hopefully it would be a collaborative process, but again, there's a finite number of resources in that line item.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, Josh.
I was just gonna say, I think I can pretty confidently say that the administration is not going to suddenly tell ZAP, you need to shut down because we're out of consulting money. We will make sure that, as items are docketed and worked through the chair, that we are adequately supporting both the department and the committee.
We should write that down.
Yeah.
Miles, you're gonna attribute that, right?
We don't wanna have, we don't wanna have, we don't wanna have to go back to the.
Josh, like, this is funny.
Yeah, I gotta go.
I'm wanted elsewhere. The reason I ask is because we, going through the general fund budget in particular, I think I'm correct in that this, and part of it is the moving of economic development, this department took the biggest cut. It was about 7 or 8%. The next one was comptroller at 4%, and then procurement moving into the mayor's office. And that, given what I feel like are the real challenges that this committee has to actually work through, and that ZAP, from your memo, Katie, Ms. Bubel, what I read out of this memo is we're getting by, but it's already, it's a lot of work and it's tough to get everything done. And I also in that did not feel confident or clear looking at the org chart and the positions that you listed and the positions that we have open, that I even had a good understanding of what jobs are we hiring for. Can you just give us a quick rundown right now of what jobs are open and which jobs are acting, so that we have a sense of what's in flux? Just walk me through it.
So I would suggest going back to the beginning and looking at the org chart for that.
I think it is a good question. I think we're 4 months into the term. I think as the memo acknowledges, we 3 senior colleagues departed the department. I think, our focus has been stabilizing and making sure everyone's, feeling comfortable and, has what they need to do their work and, can take time off so they're not burnt out. We're all picking up extra slack. So right now we are hiring for a senior planner that will staff zoning and planning.
Sorry, 1 second. I just senior. So
That
where this will
that-
run.
That should be with long range. I think there was a mistake in the org chart.
Okay, so we've got a senior planner parentheses 1 under long range
Yes.
planning, so that's a
So
hire.
That's the open position. We're in the
Okay.
second round of interviews. We have a lot of great candidates that we've been interviewing, so we're really excited about that.
Great.
We are hiring for a deputy chief planner in current.
So that's right below the chief
Yeah,
planner.
so Kat Kemet, she was the deputy chief. She got moved up to chief planner. So that's one permanent
That is-
decision.
That's the land use side?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, so the director is open now and, they posted that, but I'm still acting. I'm technically the deputy director, but Laura is acting to help me.
And I'm the director of housing and community. So we have
Yeah, I don't know what
That's
is that.
exactly-
I mean, if I draw it on it.
Start mishing and adding on.
So I think
So-
the great thing is we were able to, elevate people to roles and, compensate them for it, like kind of backfilling. So I think that's
Yeah.
a really big plus. So people feel like their extra work is being recognized.
So this
The planning associate is?
Zach Melcher, he is on the current side.
new since March, is that right?
No, he's joined us in December.
So he's in the wrong place.
He's in the wrong place.
Okay.
So, and so then the one that you said we hired for in March, or, right, you said we hired someone in March.
Kat may have been promoted in March. Yeah, Kat.
Chief planner for current planning hired March 2026,
Yeah.
so that's Kat's promotion,
Yeah,
that's what that
that's-
means. Okay. And so, Ms. Kreitzer, you're doing two jobs, acting deputy director and director.
With the
housing
help of
community.
our Shaylin Davis-Anakas, who's our housing program manager, is acting my job. So we're covering.
Sounds like a lot of people are doing 1.5 to 2 jobs.
We're at a moment of transition, so
Yeah.
we're all pitching
I
in.
think we're anticipating more permanent decisions soon, which is
And you feel that the planning or that the hires that we have budgeted for and have planned for would get the department into like the fully fleshed out hiring or kind of, team that we need.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think we've also recognized if we did have, unlimited resources, we could definitely use help with some of the more professional positions who are reviewing these technical applications and staffing committees. So, never say never, don't want to turn down. Maybe I should help with it. But in that field of more the, kind of technical aspect of things.
Okay,
They're basically down 2 people.
they're basically down 2 people,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and
Well,
and that's
three.
what,
Three.
we've lost 3, we've,
No, you're down three.
We're down 3.
Director of planning, you're hiring deputy chief planner and senior planner.
That's right.
and the budget shows from 2026 to 2027, FTEs go from 23.47 to 21.15.
Right.
So that's kind of reflected in those,
The admin.
the 2
that we
admin
have, yeah.
reductions. Okay. I mean, this is my first time doing this, so,
Me
but
too.
yeah. A 7% reduction in budget, elimination of 2 FTEs, removal of economic development from the department and its expansion in another department, a 50% reduction in the consultant budget and a $200,000 cut that puts us below the 2024 budget for this department feels like a department that is being
Shrunk.
shrunk.
That's the word for it.
Or some other set of words. I just want to make sure that the budget that is going forward is the one that like is needed for the work that we have to do, because I may surprise people, I'm still basically door knocking for no good reason, but I just go to a lot of things. And what I hear people saying is that we have a lot of really complicated challenges to deal with in this city that involve balancing, and the mayor said this upfront, growth and preservation in a way that's not easy to do. So I'm just worried that like, this is too challenging for a team that's shrinking, basically. And the last point I'll make is when we, and I'm still actually not clear after last, the city council meeting 2 nights ago where we learned that procurement's move required a public hearing. I'm still not clear why economic developments moved and not count as a reorganization and require a public hearing. But how is that? I made a very clear point at the beginning of this year that I wanted to understand how that relationship was going to be maintained. Can you explain how that relationship is being maintained and how it's going?
Possibly do that outside of a budget conversation?
With economic development, I mean, we sit near them. I think we are in open dialogue with Cheryl and Lauren. We talk about zoning, they really want to understand sort of what are some of the barriers, to businesses. And I think we're walking them through the permitting process. They're our colleagues. I think we see them like anyway.
The only comment I would make is that I was very concerned that your presence wasn't vocalized or you weren't at the meetings. So that the benefit of your conversation and your interaction wasn't happening with the members of the EDC.
Mm-hmm.
That concerned me quite a bit. because I sort of felt like it's active, they have active questions in the
Right.
meetings, and there's not the expertise in the room.
Yeah, I think planning is going to go to an
Okay.
economic development commission
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, when I would go, I would answer questions on zoning
And-
all the
yeah,
time.
Yeah,
Mm.
and it was not appropriate, because it's sort of like you guys are the ones that know anything isn't right.
Yeah.
And that relationship is also, you know, a revenue strategy for the city.
Yeah.
As budgetary implications, so.
So-
Okay.
I just wanna think of, it's coming up because we talked about the need for revenue growth as a city to meet the needs of, a budget that's not growing as fast as we need it to grow. And the planning department is a place where they can plan for new revenue to happen. And, if anything, to support what you're saying, we should see another staff person be added to make sure that the revenue is making, that's why it's a budget thing. I think you said, why are we just discussing it tonight? Because it really relates to the budget.
Yeah.
In a certain sense.
No, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, everything relates to
Just-
budget, but that's not what we're here for.
All right.
It is
It's,
what we're here for.
no, we are not here to discuss everything. We're just not.
Isn't that a budget issue if there aren't enough staff?
Everything.
All right, time out, folks. Let me recognize people as a general matter, but I think, let me go to Counselor Wright and then Counselor.
So-
I'm sorry, Counselor Roach, I beg your pardon, I can't get you.
That's fine.
Counselor Wright.
Okay, so really, as they discussed earlier, they're down 2 admins because the efficiencies from our different new gov and things like that. So they're down there. They took away 1 person and put in the mayor's department, and then the mayor doubled that. And really, the only big change in their budget is the consulting that went from 200 to 100, which they reviewed, and at this time, this is what they think is adequate for them. And we have guarantees from the mayor's office that if they need more. So this budget, even though it went down, because I looked at it too, it went down 7 or 8%. It's static. I mean, other things went up and things like that, so it really isn't a cut to this budget.
Okay, Counselor Gordon and Counselor.
No, I was just going to say what Pam said, which is I don't see that this is a shrinking department. I think Pam explained it well.
Okay.
Unless you thought you wanted the admin.
No, I think
piece.
that's important. Also, not Laura and I are, newer to this leadership role, but I think we also have a set of fresh eyes on things. So that's not to say how things were done in the past, but we're also kind of looking at things and saying, can we do better here? Where, how are people best utilized, and like, how can we do that? A lot of the job descriptions and planning, haven't been updated in a really long time. We're looking at that. I think we're trying to make things bring things into 2026 and 2027 and just take a fresh look at things. I think that's sort of another benefit of what we've brought, but I think it also on paper looks, a little different.
So let me just comment on one aspect and come to the questions. I've mentioned this to Mr. Morris about the importance of cross-training to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So for example, your historical planners, if one of them is out, we've got the commissions and the historical commission to be staffed. You need somebody else who is able to pick up and answer questions for people and help with minutes and help with meetings and things like that. And so part of what I'm very concerned about is that while there are roles and job descriptions, that there are functions, we're looking at planning to perform both planning and administration functions, because the staffing the commissions is that. And for instance, we haven't really talked about conservation at all, but Ms. Steele and the Conservation Commission is a very important part of, and this is where the regulatory arm of the city actually operates, zoning board of appeals, land use. So all those decisions are made by boards and commissions outside of even the city council that have binding legal authority of people. They're not just advice. I think it's very important that they be adequately staffed so that those decisions are well done and they're well memorialized. So, I mentioned this to Mr. Morris, but maybe he'd like to comment about it. I know there are union issues at times because of some people that are union, but I think it's very important that as part of your work as planning, and again, it goes to a resource question, if it turns into additional people, then we need to talk about that. But it's whether the people you have can help back each other up from various places and times so that there is assurance that there's coverage for these really vital activities that go on all the time. And they're outside of our range of vision, but they happen. And we want to make sure they're done well and done right. Mr. Morris, do you want to comment on that?
Actually, Katie, if you'd like to give your position on it, and then I can compliment.
So just basically, yeah, I think people are adequately cross-trained, and, yeah, sorry, can you repeat the second part?
Well, I mean, for example, if one of your historical planners is out,
Oh, yeah,
you know, is there somebody on your team that can step in?
yes,
Now, you've got Eve Tapper coming in, for instance.
So both Molly and I have done the historic.
Yeah,
work,
And yeah, you've done it.
and jump in as needed.
Right. So I just think that's really important to assure people about the quality. We're asking is the departmental budget adequate to do the job? And this is part of one of the issues I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would say that from the administration's perspective, you heard a lot from Mayor Laredo and others about professional development. Part of professional development is cross-training, because that's, if you understand everybody's jobs, you are going to be a better employer or a better employee and have an opportunity to move up. So that is something that we certainly are passionate about. I know Katie's done a lot, and a lot of our departments have, but we think it's an opportunity for growth and improvement in the year ahead.
Now, Councilor Roach, you've been very patient, but now come back to Councilor Wood. Councilor, all right, now take the online, excuse me, Councilor Roach. and then-
So I accept the premise that it's basically static budget. But that strikes me as inadequate to the challenges that we face, right? We have climate action, climate mitigation, desperate need for economic growth, as well as the impact of the BCOD. And I would think that this would be a place for investment and not for flatline budget. Even if we accept that as the correct description. On the economic front, and I sent a email to, a group of us sent an email to the mayor this afternoon about this. We didn't talk about the kind of substance of the change in January because the budget was going to come up and we all said, oh, you know what, this is a short-term thing. The budget's here, right? And I'm concerned that we don't have staff that are responsible for developing a growth strategy, who have professional training, professional experience, professional certification, practical knowledge about how to develop, implement, maintain a growth strategy, an economic growth strategy. I cannot imagine that we're going to have a growth strategy that will not require regulatory, either zoning or permitting changes, which requires technical expertise. And I appreciate the adjacency of the planning department and the economic development, but this is a difference. This is about roles and responsibilities and making sure that the budget reflects the complexity of and the necessity for and the urgency for economic growth. You know, we spent a lot of time talking about the school budget and how desperately, you know, the schools need more money than they have. All of the departments, you know, we're doing the same thing. We have expenses which are going to outrun the constraints of our revenue under Prop 2.5. So we have a big set of challenges, and it is disappointing to see the lack of investment in planning and planning professionals that's reflected in the budget. So those are my concerns. I take this very serious, this part of this discussion very seriously, and I hope that maybe we can, before the budget season is over, we can get some answers and maybe some tweaks to the budget that reflect that desperate need for revenue growth. and a revenue growth, planning for a revenue growth strategy, right? It's gonna take time to develop that strategy. Do we have the right people in the right seats with the right experience, the right skills, the right training to get the job done? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, let me go to the, after that to, Counselor Kelly. I want to recognize you because we're so delighted to have you join us. And then I'll get to you, Counselor Taylor. Oh, Block, excuse me. I'm so used to seeing Counselor Taylor from the
I was
corner.
gonna say Counselor Block has had his hand up longer than me, so go to him first. Counselor Block.
Or Counselor Block, she's yielded to you. Sorry, this is the difficulty of dealing with the screen. For me. Bear with me, folks.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak. It's been an interesting conversation that you've been having. I just wanted to bring a little apples to apples comparison to everybody's attention, which I think is a little bit underneath this conversation, but the transfer of the economic development expenses from the planning department to the mayor's department was $162,826. That's just, you can all dig that out. That was the budget in 2026. So the reduction of almost exactly $200,000 from planning, most of that's just a transfer of funds. So if you adjust the 26 budget down by $162,000, your reduction is 1.5%, not 7.5%. 7.5 is just dividing one number by the other and ignoring the transfer. So there is a reduction, that's true, but I wouldn't overstate it. And you've all focused on the reduction in the consulting line of $100,000. That's most of what this reduction is. And maybe that's not enough. It seems to me you've kicked that around and you've got assurances that, what will be needed in that line will be found somehow. And so I don't, from just the point of view of kind of, is this department being cut, or is it essentially in a level funding position? This is way closer to a level funding than anything else. Now, perhaps Councillor Roach and others think that this department ought to be expanded. Of course, the Economic Development Department was expanded. That budget was more than doubled. I know that's not before you, but if that hadn't been transferred out of this, you would have seen that increase in the planning department budget. And to me, that's just a matter of moving boxes around an org chart. Instead of here, it's over there, and that's a sort of mayoral prerogative. So I don't see anything other than, yeah, there's some very important positions that are vacant now, and I believe they're they're being posted and they're in the process of being filled. So I think everybody in the planning department, as best I can tell, is doing the best in a transition from one mayor to another, and the departure of the two top level people. Those skills have to be replaced, and that'll eventually happen. There's just a certain amount of time that takes. So that's just my comment to all of this discussion. Thanks for the chance to speak, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. It's not quite a TED Talk, but it's close, but we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to come at it from a land use committee perspective. You guys have been talking a lot from a ZAP perspective. First of all, many things that have been said around the table are
really, striking me. One is I'm very happy about the comment that Ms. Wewell made that she and Laura are both experienced, new in leadership, but being able to bring kind of a fresh eye to some of this restructuring and rewriting of job descriptions. I'm really happy to hear that. I think that's a great idea. I understand too that most of the vacancies are being filled, which I really applaud, because from the land use perspective, again, we're seeing, Katie Wewell talked about this, the need for skilled professional planners who have the ability to evaluate the special permit applications that come before us. One thing many of us have been talking about for some time now is trying to streamline the process for homeowners, for applicants, for petitioners. And that means deadlines need to be met. It means efficiency in the reviewing, adequacy and thoroughness in the review. So I look forward to having some of these new positions filled. I think we're having not just a linguistics kind of battle here, but it's a little more meaningful whether the funding is static or level funded or shrinking. I've heard all of those words tossed around. To me, it does feel a little bit like it's shrinking. Certainly the consultant availability is a shrinkage. Moving people from one, department to another is. I just also have a question about that, which I'm not sure if I missed you discussing. Is the position of the zoning compliance officer, basically Jane Santos, is that in planning? Isn't that in planning also?
Yeah, Jane's the chief zoning code official. I think.
Yeah.
What I don't know if there's a position in inspectional services, the zoning enforcement officer.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's maybe where they're very close in title, but different roles.
I just wondering if you all have thought about moving that position to ISD, for instance, or out of planning, and where that position, I recognize she or that role has a lot of overlap with both planning and ISD in terms of interpretation, but that's just a role I haven't heard us talking about. So I think, I hope that you fill these positions, and it does, as Councillor Damobed said, and I think a little bit, Councillor Albright, it does feel a little like shrinkage to me. And I really hear to what Councillor Roach is talking about, because it's not just reacting to current applications, but it's thinking forward, planning ahead, and that includes the whole economic growth and as Councillor Roach refers to it, growth strategy. I think we all know we need to be thinking about that in the city. So when I think about static or level funded or slight decreases or only a couple $100,000, it does feel more like shrinking to me. And I know we can't add to a budget, but I just do want to put in, my comments that I would support adequate more hiring of professional, capable staff, skilled people that do the needs that we see all the time in land use, so that we can stop having people complain about what a slow, expensive, time-consuming, onerous process it is to try and get something done building-wise. So that's just a couple words, not a TED Talk from land use. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, I didn't really finish my comment before, which is okay.
Yeah, no.
Because I wanted to clarify what is in here, aside from the 2 admin positions that presumably you really worked hard at looking at what our strategy is, knowing what in land use and ZAP, and we just heard from inspectional services, and you've been meeting with the mayor. Presumably you've been talking about what our strategies are. This wasn't done in a vacuum. So what I'm hearing from my colleagues, but there seems to be an assumption that you haven't thoughtfully really thought through what it is that you need and what it is that you don't need. So I just wanted to clarify that, in terms of the positions here, we're not losing key positions, right? We're losing some admins that presumably you thought, should we put this money towards another professional? Do we need these admins? And thought very thoughtfully about, our government money and our taxpayer money, and what positions do we need and what positions don't we need, given that we do have a strategy that we are trying to move forward on. And so I thought it would just help to clarify that, I don't want to start using terms like growing, shrinking, whatever. We've moved people. The mayor's committed to economic development. We've had a lot of conversations about where we want to go. To Councillor Kelly's point, we were talking about inspectional services and trying to make sure people get things done quickly. And I think it would be reassuring to hear again that when you put this budget together and thought about what positions you wanted, you did that with a strategy in mind and not in a vacuum of not knowing where we want to go in Newton. So it's 2 admin positions that you strongly felt we didn't need. And did you think about adding 1 more professional? Did you feel that we needed that and decided not to go that direction?
Well, I think sort of my immediate kind of recognized need maybe would be help with the historic, because the volume is very high. I think we could still get part-time help with that with the budget we have. It's just might not be a permanent position. It may be somebody who helps out or an intern for a short amount of time. I think like a graduate level intern. So that was sort of my initial take on where another person could go, but maybe not a full-time position without maybe observing a little bit more and, getting to know the work of historic a little bit more.
Well, I'd say too, we are getting our new to these acting
Yeah.
positions, but we've been in the department for both of us
Yeah.
for several years now. So I think we do understand how the department works. And where, like we were saying, like maybe there's less of a need for certain positions in the department now. And then, we do need to get back up to speed with the 3 open positions, and then I think we might be in a better place too to look at,
Right.
okay, what do we want to do next? Where do we want to go?
The one question I have, if you don't mind, just to share, if you had an additional part-time position, so you could back up historic and some of these other things, that's the one question I have. Whether, because I'm talking about job sharing and cross-training is a kind of an emergency, but that's not the way you really want to run the game. You don't want to sort of call up and say, hey, I've got an overload here and I need help, and we talked about the records. Is this a situation where you could use a half-time person and have you the resources to get that person now?
I think we do in the, I think
in the existing budget.
Yeah, no, yeah. But again, it would be sort of to allow our 2 planners to sort of focus on the volume of work they have. Sort of
Well, I think that's
alleviate their
important, and I think that's consistent with what we've been concerned about. So do you have the resources to get that part-time person in this budget? Because this looks like there's not, you've lost 2 part-time positions.
Right.
So the question is, if you kept one of those and repurposed it, would that, or that's what
I
I'm.
think we want to
trying
understand the length of
Yeah.
time, whether,
And
I was just gonna say, I don't think we would necessarily want to add back in an
Right.
FTE if we're talking, because a full-time position for the potential for an intern or a part-time non-benefited position, I don't think would be appropriate.
Right.
I think what Katie's saying is that within the existing budget as presented, they have the flexibility to take that on when that time comes.
Okay, I think that's really important, because I would support that, but if you needed additional resources in order to do that, then we ought to talk about it. That's exactly the conversation we need to have here. So I hope that if this budget goes forward intact, that we don't run into a situation where you say, I really wanted to get somebody part-time to help out, but I couldn't do it, because that would be an unfortunate outcome, I think.
Would you use consulting money? Is that how you would do it? Because I don't know what else you would use.
Yeah, we could.
There's no free money floating
Yeah.
around.
yeah, I think, too, I've kind of thought that once we all get, once we're fully staffed, we could also take a look
Yeah,
at
we
how
still
we
have-
can support.
Well,
each other.
Some of the
maybe
part-time,
I'm putting words in the mouth of Mr. Josh Morris, but that what I'm hearing is a willingness to support in the consulting item what the committee needs, but I think that not just the committee, but I think the city needs the backup of an additional part-time person as you get staffed up, but to enable you to have the historical folks do their job. It seems to me that's
Yeah.
appropriate.
Probably part-time, short-term, but I'm seeing here we still have part-time salary budget left and we have the consultant line. I feel like we have adequate resources for
Okay.
that.
All right, I just think it's really important. All right, let me go there. We got everybody- Yeah. I'm gonna go to the vice chair, then Councilor Albright, and I'll come back. Okay.
Can I wanna understand, so seems like the bottleneck right now is on historic, and so you don't have enough on historic, you haven't been doing meetings on historic. Is it because there's too much going through historic, or because we're understaffed, they've been pulled to other places, so they're not full-time on historic?
I think we have adequate staffing. I think there's just other projects they'd like to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of it they'd like to do. I think the volume of the applications, which, you know, it can come and go. I think the number of committees that they're overseeing is a challenge. It's, and to be fair, has been, when I was doing it myself, it was a challenge keeping up. So there's just a lot of different things. If all of the committees are getting a lot of applications, if they're all busy, you're focusing on trying to get people reviewed, getting decisions done, so they can get moving. And sometimes things like minutes kind of, you put them to the side of, okay, this is not an immediate need. I need to keep everything rolling. I need to make sure we're ready
Meet
for
the
the meeting.
statutory deadline.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
My question is,
Fine,
like,
Laura.
the people who are working on historic, are they working just on historic and the
Yes.
volume's just going too much? And they can't keep up, and
It's
so,
just a lot. It's a lot.
and so what is it? Is it the tear downs coming through, that there's more of those, or partials, or going through historic? Because historic is, from my perspective, is tear downs or additions or whatever.
But it's also the
not-
historic districts. So, you know, we have two people who are great at what they do and know their subject very well. They both do, you know, one of the changes that we made after the last group of people retired and moved on is to switch the jobs so that we had one person doing demolition and we had one person doing the districts. Now both of them are working together, which is, in my opinion, a much better way to do it, that they're both sharing both of those loads. There's just a lot going on, so that's helpful in keeping things moving and making sure things get reviewed quickly. There's just, you know, and it's the spring, people are applying to get moving so they can get their projects done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Albright.
The housing section, could you just remind me which of these are federally funded?
So, the housing program manager and the housing, trying to think of the title is.
It's here.
It's here.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know.
Yeah,
They're not
no,
on the page.
Unfortunately, I'm using it on.
So the housing program manager and the housing development planner, those two are funded by the city.
Housing planner and the housing development planner.
The housing
city-
program manager and housing development
Housing program.
planner are city funded. The housing planner and the housing rehab construction manager, those are the two people who work on our rehab and our resale programs for affordable units. Our senior CD planner and our community development planner, those two are both out of federal funds. Our fiscal manager is partially out of federal funds. They also do, you know, invoices and finances for the department, so they're not quite half and half between those two positions. And then we have a compliance coordinator who is a part-time position, and our admin person who is funded out of federal.
So just, I'm,
Yeah, so basically everything that's shared, I think that's last year.
okay.
So housing planner and housing rehab is federal too.
Housing planner, housing rehab, community development planner, senior community development planner.
So does the housing development planner have any time to work with the ZAPs, with the ZAP staff, the staff that's?
The housing development planner right now works with the housing trust, that's Allison.
Okay.
Works the housing trust, the partnership and the consortium. She also does our rent recertification, so for all of
So
the.
she's got a
affordable-
full-time job.
She's got a lot going on.
Okay.
I think both she and Shaylin Davis and Nakas, who's our housing program manager, are absolutely, you know, we can have them work with you, ZAP as needed, but I think, you know, they've got a lot on their plate from
Okay.
inclusionary zoning and the other ordinances we
Okay.
have.
Can I just make a note to Mr. Morse?
Yeah.
If the color, if you know, this color information is not in the online version,
I think that.
Well, that was last year.
Yeah.
It would still.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise I have to count through the, you know, who sits where, but that's a lot easier.
That was very impressive, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
So folks, we need to get to a vote if we can. Any
Yeah.
last,
Joe, I just
yeah.
have one comment. You know, I actually really appreciate where you know, the discussion. I really am reluctant to pull away from the consultant budget for the, you know, the halftime historical position that you're suggesting be, you know, implemented, you know, in terms of the person that would help out, because I think that that's important. And I don't know if there's an opportunity to hire back someone who's retired, you know, that has the expertise, that can actually jump in day one and do the backlog as well as just even the help with that load, because I think that there's a lot of expertise that's needed in that position. But I also feel like, because I know in the
Yeah.
ISD, they hire back for the inspectors, you know, people that have retired or, you know, that are available. So I just sort of wonder if that pool is available.
Yeah, I think of the ones that I know of who have retired,
They're right.
Katie moved to New Hampshire, I don't know
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
Barbara.
we also have, I know we have grad school interns who
And
reach out to us, so I think that's
I
where
was
we
gonna say,
would
I think
say
that's
the
what I
oppor-
said,
the
yeah.
opportunity
But I'm
is.
very concerned about keeping the budget as high as we can with the consultants, because I do think that's a pricey piece. And, you know, the architectural needs, you know, I just sort of see this need much higher than the 200,000. That's
It's
not-
100,000.
Oh,
It's going down.
Cut it in half.
Okay, that's not good. That's a low
Well,
number.
We can, I think the question is, I think we've identified there's multiple needs that may be needed, but we
Yeah.
know the historical is there. I just want to make sure that's taken care of in real time, because that's only gonna get worse unless it gets better, so to speak. And so, how it's done, but I'm hearing that you think you have resources independent of the consulting line to take care of that, and, but anyway, I'd like to move this along, Councilor.
My last point, I promise. The first one is, I've been very diligently advertising our positions to the planning community and including internships, so I will talk to you about some of that. And thank you, Councillor Block, for clarifying the kind of line item numbers that got us to basically static. That very much helped me. When I took a second look at it, I understood it's, you know, minus 162, minus 100, so that's minus 162. I thought, how did we get to minus 200? And it's basically healthcare costs that have gone up. Seems like that's
Well, it's two admins, two admin.
right, so.
It's more than minus whatever, so you got actually their budget increased overall.
Yeah, I just couldn't find any big numbers that other than healthcare costs, which I understand. I just want to make sure in your memo in under operations and staffing, you said the greatest need within planning is to have adequate specialized staff if available to complete the additional work requested for the department. We talked about that. Staff are needed with the capacity to complete initial application reviews and detailed administrative tasks, which prevent existing staff from working on longer term goals, preservation plans, zoning changes, et cetera. Do you feel like the job descriptions that we've got out there now will cover these needs?
Yeah.
That's where this lives, just so
Yes.
okay, great. In my advertising of our positions, I've heard that chief deputy planner, people have told me that salary feels low. But do with that what you will, but I'm glad to hear that the job descriptions align with what you think your
Yeah.
needs are. So, that's all.
Okay, all right, so, are we ready for vote on this item? So the amount here is for the Department of Planning and Development, $2,499,301 plus the supplemental. You don't have CIP in either, do you, Cedar? Do we?
Lisa requested that you include that in the straw vote.
Okay, we'll include it, all right. Lisa wants it, we'll do it. Whatever supplemental CIP and CIP applies, we'll take that up. All right, I have a motion on that? Approved? So moved. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, you're welcome to stick around, probably, and put my life through your paces. We really didn't talk much at all about, I just want to say that there are people in this budget who are had not been commented on very much, but I just want to acknowledge the work of Jennifer Steele and her team in conservation. They have an extraordinarily difficult task because they are not only responding to the regulatory responsibilities for the Conservation Commission, but the Conservation Commission is charged with the maintenance of all of the conservation lands in the city, which are quite substantial. And somehow they managed to do all of that. And I don't think that their absence should go unnoticed in a sense by being not acknowledged as how important that is to, along with everybody else. So,
Absolutely.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you both. And thank you for visiting. You're doing great work.
Thank you.
So, CPA administration, Molly. So this is a tab. These, you had the materials attached to the agenda.
Yes,
but-
I submitted my slides.
Yeah, but you may want to show them to the public because they may not see them as easily. But the basic point here is, Molly, I don't think we'll need quite a long time to go through. This house.
I'm gonna take it down.
I'm sure we can put it down.
We can ask you lots of questions.
I'll be here to answer whatever questions you have.
Molly, just identify yourself for the public record.
Yes, my name is Molly Hutchings. I'm the CPA program manager that stands for the Community Preservation Act. I know we have new faces since the last time I did one of these budget presentations, so there's going to be a quick overview of what CPA is at the beginning, and please ask questions if you want to know more about the program. Seem to be missing a slide. All right, so I'll do the overview really quickly. Who hasn't heard of CPA?
Say again?
Who hasn't heard of or like?
Well, some people in the audience.
People in the audience, but like, for new counselors, really, I'm directing that because, you'll see me a lot more often now. We have funding in 4 categories. It's open space, affordable housing, recreation, and historic resources. We have a surcharge that funds the program. It is 1% on your real estate taxes in the city of Newton, and it also receives a state match. And budget is divided afterwards, a little bit like this. So this is our revenue for FY26 and FY27. For the local surcharge. The FY26 number will be a little lower here than it is in your packet. It was projected a little high the first time I went through the FY26 budget. But this FY27 is about $75,000 higher than the previous year. We're looking at very modest increases that we're anticipating from surcharge year to year. And unfortunately, also modest matches. Those of you who have been around longer will remember that we used to get state matching funds not estimated, but that the actual match we got was 38, 40%. They've been hovering around 15 for the last few years. So we are not, we're not bringing in really high revenue there anymore. I think the official estimate from the coalition, which is our state lobby group that and that connects everyone working in community preservation, has estimated 15.5 for this year, but I put it in 15 for the budget, so we have a little bit of a cushion. That's not good. Getting a low battery here. We've talked so much. This is how that 5 million that you see at the bottom here, this 5.1 million, will be broken down. We spend up to 5% of annual new funds on administration every year. That includes my salary and benefits, but also office supplies, postage, replacing this laptop, any sort of administrative expense. Yes, yeah, quite possibly. our debt service payment, so we have a handful of projects that are bonded. A bonded project is sort of like a mortgage project, and that includes Gap Pool, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, the athletic fields. I'm missing Webster Woods, thank you. And to explain the jump from FY '26 to FY '27, we had a project for Jackson Homestead where the bond just sold. So that's why you see a bit of a jump there. Of our revenue that we bring in, 10% goes to to a reserve account for community housing, 10% goes to a historic resource reserve, and 10% goes to an open space reserve. These reserve accounts the funds in them can only be spent on that type of project. If those funds aren't spent in any given year, they just roll over. So our open space reserve is spent every year on the Webster Woods debt service payment. So the actual amount of debt service we're paying is what you see in the line item for debt service, plus the entirety of the open space reserve.
The entirety?
The entirety.
So about 1.6 million.
Yes. The community housing reserve goes in its entirety to the Affordable Housing Trust every year, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we fund the Affordable Housing Trust. So really our only reserve that has any chance of rolling over year to year is our historic resource reserve. We've had enough projects where that hasn't been happening either. We've had quite a few historic resource projects come through in the last few years. And we try to fund those out of that reserve account. Anything else goes into that general reserve, and those are unrestricted for any other projects that come up. Those projects still have to fit into one of the 4 categories, but the unrestricted fund can be spent on any of them. And you'll see it's all pretty close. I think this debt service payment also, the FY '27 debt service payment included an estimate of the Jackson Homestead's final amount, because I didn't have it yet, but it came in within $7,000. So this is very close. Just a few quick highlights of things that the program has accomplished this year. We funded the Housing Trust 2.1 million. And Laura usually comes to my meetings to deal with that. The trust receives 35% of CPA's revenue every year. And that allows us to hit our target spending in the community housing category, regardless of what projects are applying. So 10% is required to be put in that reserve legally. But we have a goal as a community to hit 35% of our revenue on affordable housing, and this ensures that we do that. And this is the first time I think that the number has been over 2 million, which was awesome. Some other athletic fields or some other projects that have had milestones in FY '26 are the athletic fields projects, progress near completion at Burr and Albemarle Fields, which are 2 out of the 3 athletic fields we funded with that bonded project. A more recent highlight, we just approved construction funding of the restoration of the War Memorial Stairs at City Hall. That was, Josh that's left, if he could have told you more about that, that was a long time coming. And it came in well under budget, so we're excited to start moving that along. And I have pictured here the Armory, which was maybe the last affordable housing project funded before we started funding all of our housing projects through the Affordable Housing Trust. So that's been in progress a while, but it's making, you can see, I went to Trader Joe's the other night and took this picture. I think it's coming along great. I'm very happy with it. Josh, you missed it, but I celebrated that the stairs got construction funding.
Yes.
You just cleared the confetti.
And that is the bulk of what I have. If you have any questions, I know it's a lot to take in if it's your first time seeing it, so I'm happy to answer.
This is for, I'll entertain questions, but this is really quite an extraordinary resource that a lot of communities don't have. And I just think makes an enormous difference. And the ability to have funds dedicated for these purposes, because normally they would never see the light of day in a sense of a budget, because the other issues are more pressing. But this assures that those very important matters get taken care of, and it's a great, I think, win for the city, and has been for many years. We don't get much of a match anymore, but still, it's really an important resource. Now, questions, let me go to the vice chair, president, and then Councilor Donovan.
The supplement capital improvement plan, and it has the priorities, and I think you did grades. You went from green to red, and the reds being at the top, do you know anything on this or not really?
I've seen it when Josh has presented it for me in his previous role, but that is about my relationship to it.
Okay, I'll skip that then.
Just real quick, I haven't heard the way that you just expressed it, that 100% of open space reserve is going to debt service for Webster Woods. How much, what's the duration of the funds on Webster Woods? Like, how much longer are we without any open space CPA funds?
Oh, that's not quite.
Okay, good.
What?
I'm glad I misheard it. Stated it right there.
We are without a need to earmark additional funds for open space.
The general reserve can go to anything.
Yes. So that we can fund open space projects through the unrestricted balance.
So does Webster Woods count the 10%?
Yes.
Ultimately, what I'm trying to get at is, either way, some 500, if I understand correctly, $510,000 in addition to the debt service is going to debt service.
So Webster Woods debt service payment is about $650,000 year to year. So that 510 plus a portion of that goes to Webster Woods, a portion of the debt service line.
Okay, so debt service is really almost 1.7.
Yes.
Okay, great. So how much longer is that on our books?
I will look it up. It would have been a 30-year at the time, so I think till 2050.
That was a 30-year bond.
Yes.
I thought that was 15. Okay, so yeah, there's a significant chunk left to go. Okay, thank you.
It is our largest debt service payment.
I kind of remember yeah. And yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I have a similar question, which is just, does any additional money from the unrestricted go towards debt servicing?
No.
Okay.
No, the total spend on debt service is the debt service line and the open space.
And the remainder that isn't for Webster Woods is for Jackson Homestead and
Gap Pool and the athletic.
that's right. Okay, great, thank you. And you're the only person in this that does this, is that correct? Okay. And did the shift to doing the affordable house or the housing funding through the Affordable Housing Trust, did that result in efficiencies in terms of administration or anything like that, or has it made your life easier?
Laura can speak more to this, but yes, it does, because every CPA project comes through 2 city council committees and then goes to full council before getting approved. It gets docketed and discussed. And that takes time. And a lot of affordable housing projects, much like what's the big one that went so quickly? Newton Gardens. They require our staff to act very quickly to make sure that those opportunities are seized upon. So the Affordable Housing Trust can act once the funds are approved. The 35% that we give them goes through that same process. It goes to 2 city council committees and it goes to full council to get voted on. But once the funds are in the Affordable Housing Trust's hands, they can act quickly and ensure, how many units was it? 100?
112 units.
112 units got preserved.
Great. I can't tell you how many times I'm out and about and people just say, oh, I got funding through the CPA for this, and and it's always such something great, so thank you.
Absolutely.
So the Newton, no, not the Newton Gardens, but the project on, the new project on
Spears
Washington Street,
Yeah, Spears Park.
is that from the 26 money?
That might be 24 money, 25 or 24 money.
Wait, and this is the Beacon,
793, the Beacon
the
Communities.
Beacon
project.
Communities one.
Oh,
I believe it would have been it would have been last year's funds. We
Okay,
used
I
2
didn't
million
know
was
that
allocated,
project,
but to be fair, the money hasn't left the city yet.
Right,
So it's just in our fund right now.
so,
Would that have gone through CPA or housing trust?
Housing trust.
Yeah.
so, is there still money to spend? The Housing Trust doesn't think it has any more money.
It has about 600, I believe.
And so how much money is 35% for next year? You know?
Off the top of my head, no, but it'll be
Another 2
like
million or
about 2 million. It's always
Okay.
about 2 million.
Okay.
Is that a third of that number?
Yeah.
Which is 1.5?
Yes, it will.
Ish.
1.7.
But if the money isn't spent, if they don't use the money this year, it just rolls over.
Yeah, it stays in the trust fund until.
Okay.
So actually, I should correct that. Once the trust votes, to allocate money, comptroller sets up a separate account, but it stays with the city in that separate account until they are ready to move forward and they've met all their.
I wasn't gonna quite get into this, but one thing that has happened in the last year is that we started earning interest on some of our accounts. Normally it's negligible, but because we have some bonded projects that haven't paid down much yet, we had about $1 million in interest come in the last year. And that's what bumped our revenue up slightly, and we got, the housing trust got over 2 million for that reason.
That's a big gap in here somewhere.
It is, but ideally we want them to spend the money on the project that we gave them to build those athletic fields, so we don't want to count on it. Yeah, we don't want to get too attached to that money, but it has been nice to have a surprise $1 million.
Surprise, I would agree entirely. Yes.
That's all right.
I think, did Councilor Getz have a question?
Well, excuse me, Councilor, Block, my apologies.
I'm sorry. Did you call on me, Chair?
Well, your hand was up.
Yes. No. It is. I just couldn't tell who you were asking to speak at that point. I just have a question about the CPS surcharge. Could Molly go back to her slideshow and put up the summary chart that she had?
I had to, but let's see which one. This one?
Yes. Now, this may not, well, I'll just ask my question. In the budget book that I'm looking at, the local CPA surcharge is not the number you have.
Under FY26?
Under FY26, it's 4,413,007. So what's the discrepancy?
I did address that just very quickly when I went through the first time. It was projected a little high the first time I did the budget for FY26, and this is the actual number that we received.
Okay, but then I don't think those three numbers add up to your 5,059,000.
I left the total revenue as what was approved by City Council in FY26, but Laura and I discussed it. We wanted to make sure that the CPA surcharge number was accurate to the day. That's my computer down. But that's last year's budget.
All right, it's just a little confusing that a column of numbers doesn't in fact add up to the total.
It's projected about $150,000.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, as long as you're aware of this discrepancy, it might deserve a footnote somewhere. That's it. That's all I was asking about. Thank you.
All right. Ready, Councilor Oliver. Motion to, oh, all right. Yes, wait a minute.
My only comment, I just wanted to, and then I should know this, is when does the Affordable Housing Trust get their appropriation? It's, I can't, it's cyclical and it's actually something.
So
that-
we usually apply and then, in the new year, July or August, we
Okay.
get, start the process. So then it's, that's why I said we have to go through the city council process and committee meetings and it's August, so. Usually early mid fall.
Right, and then the only other comment I make is that I was in the historic the other night and they were reviewing 4 Sumner Street, which right next door is a building that actually, I think Strickland was the name of the woman.
Oh,
who-
Castleman House, yes.
Yes, and she was explaining that they actually wanted to acquire that lot. And I was just so disappointed, because it was the kind of moment, because it's designated BC3 in center. And I just thought, is somebody watching, because I just sort of felt like it was such a missed opportunity for the trust.
And she had reached out, I think, well, so I think for the trust, we funded some amazing projects, but we only have so much money to work with.
Right.
So right now, we can't,
Even
we don't have enough money to do anything, certainly on our own.
Yeah.
I think also there was kind of an understanding, at least when the trust was created, and it has potential to do many things, but that it could work best if it remains a funder more than a developer. So, the city is really not in the business of developing
Okay.
affordable housing, and I think we do much better when we help those who are. So, some of it's, waiting for the right people to come in and
Okay.
I think we've got some great projects on board. And some that I expect will come in the next year, so.
One thing that I just want to clarify that I thought of when you were speaking is that because the Affordable Housing Trust is funded by CPA funds, all of the restriction and regulation that comes with receiving affordable housing CPA funding, any trust project is still beholden to all of that. There's no loss of regulation in this process.
Councilor Wright, maybe we can vote.
I have just a quick question, maybe just a 3-sentence answer, because it could go on for a half an hour. And this is about
I don't do that to you.
I have a motion.
the debt service for Webster Woods, which is taking the whole thing, that whole amount. It's in lawsuit now. What happens, or what's the update, or as we lose it, then all that, I mean. I have 3 cents.
3 cents.
Sure, go ahead.
We have told the city they should come back and we could bond whatever we need to bond for whatever additional funding they need for the project.
If we lose it though, completely, and then we have to sell it to BC.
No.
No, we'll never have to
No,
sell it. No.
the city owns the land and it will stay the land. The question is what price they pay to BC.
Okay, so,
So,
okay.
and the state of the lawsuit just is really very interesting situation. And the short story is that the original Temple land was acquired from what was called the Metropolitan District Commission, which then became part of the Department of Conservation and Recreation. It came with a restriction that said that the property could be used only for recreational and educational, religious and educational uses for 99 years. The city bought the land at eminent domain with that restriction in mind, which made it less valuable than would be if it were unrestricted. Boston College took the money that we gave them, but came back and said, we think that that restriction, which we took advantage of when we bought it from the temple, is actually invalid for reasons that are a matter of how restrictions are designed in law. As I understand it, the court said, well, we tend to agree with the college a bit, but actually we think that maybe the original conveyance to the temple was invalid. And if that's the case, this land has always been in the public hands.
Oh, interesting.
And, you know, and so they basically punted this question up to a higher court to figure out who owns this, and then who, if depending on who owns it, who pays whom. So the college has opened a door, which is through a particular resolution, which I don't think they expected. They were expecting to raise the price,
Yeah.
not raise the question of whether they actually owned it originally.
So maybe DCS give us back the money?
Well, there would be, this would make a very interesting opportunity.
If we fund the historic position.
No, I would.
It all comes back to Molly.
But,
But anyway, that's an oversimplified, more than 3 sentences, but I've been watching this one from the sidelines. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Very, very short question. Does the CPA fund the Newton Housing Authority at all, either through the
No.
Affordable Housing Trust or separately?
Well, we could through the Affordable Housing Trust. I don't think we've yet done a housing authority project. Oh, no, Haywood House. Yeah, we have funded through CPA, we have funded the housing authority.
Separate from the Affordable Housing Trust?
Separate, prior to the trust. yeah.
Prior to, okay.
CPA funds would typically go to a specific project rather than to like some sort of bulk payment to the housing authority.
Understood, but if they were doing a capital improvement, renovating kitchens or something, that kind of thing, okay. Great, thank you.
All right, I think we have a motion. Oh, Counselor Taylor, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve via straw vote.
I know the president had done that, but we'll take you, I don't care, as long as we got a motion. All right, the amount here is $5,102,817.78. Plus the supplemental CIP and the CIP, and the following my instructions. All right, that's the motion you're making, Counselor Kalis?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the ayes have it, unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Molly. Thank you for being the cleanup out of here tonight. And also, we want to thank the Mr. Morris for coming and spending
And
his.
making all those commitments.
Yeah.
8:23.
For everything.
As he reaches into his hand for that.
That's how I heard it.
Josh, is the,
Thank
is
you all.
the historic position?
I will
gonna be
just
solved by
mention
my
to you.
I don't know if I can solve that quick.
How about the-
Buying cars is way easier.
Let me just report that for the members of the committee, when we get to the full council, I am not going to report the entire conversations that went on. I'm going to say, just so you know, I'm going to report that we approved the budget and there were some questions raised about adequacy for certain things. And we've had assurances that the department, that things will get fixed. But I'm not going to ask Miles to give us a play-by-play of all of this, because I think it's not fair to him and also not fair to the full council to have to read all of that. I think basically we'll have a more summary report. And I just want you to know that and not be concerned that we haven't gotten everybody's comment in. We want to just try and make sure that we get the output that we need for the full council. Okay, is that all right? All right. Okay, now. Okay, we're done, folks. Laura's new adjourned and we're done.
It's right next door. It's,
yeah.
the
Recording stopped.
Is it the-
To the right.